This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to our sunset drive from the Mara Triangle. We've got two of these stallions here, and I guess they're just two male zebras that are just being playful because they know maybe today is the Christmas Eve. And whoops, look at that, how they're jumping on top of one another. And behind them is a waterbuck. What a lovely start we have today. And we are very happy to have you on board as usual. My name is David, and on camera with me today is Archie. Archie, good afternoon. And to all of you, a very happy Christmas Eve. Today, we shall not have the usual Safari Live. We're going to have 3 hours of solid fun, nothing but fun. A lot of entertainment we'll have for you today because today is the Christmas Eve. I'm sure some of you are waking up now. We've been up the last 12 hours, but still very excited to have you on board. Well, we're going to go back to our zebras, and just to let you know, it feels pretty good temperatures for me. 26 degrees Celsius and about 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That is good temperatures to work in. It's good temperatures to be in this beautiful Mara Triangle. I'm sure you always know, and if you don't, I want to remind you and request you, we love to hear questions and comments from you as usual on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can keep following us on the YouTube chat stream. All right, my plans, as I said earlier, or we're promising you today, is to show you lots of game. And first, we're just showing you a little snippet of the Mara Triangle. Zebras, waterbucks, forest, green landscape. It couldn't be better than that. And another one just crossing the road there. Most important, I'm not the only one out here showing you this beautiful wilderness. There's another gentleman way down in South Africa who'd want to give you such a wonderful smile and say hello to all of you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm just busy turning around. We found some nice tracks. My name is Steve. I'm joined on camera by Davisito. It is a blistering, sweltering 34 degrees Celsius, 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, we decided to come up towards the northwestern side of Djuma, where apparently a new pride of lions has been spotted, and I just found some wild dog tracks in the road. So I'm going to turn around and go back that way, because wild dogs are active by day. They might be somewhere down here lying up. We might be lucky. There's some small ones, there's some big ones. Let's go. Are you excited? Hashtag Safari Live. Send through your questions, comments. We're excited to have you out here on Christmas Eve in South Africa. I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon wherever you might be with your family and friends. We are about to go and see if we can maybe provide some wild dogs for Christmas. Wouldn't that be gorgeous? I'm just going to point out the tracks really quickly. They're not very clear. Just over here, Darby, I think. There we go. That one. Oh, there we go. You got one. There's one there. Come back a bit. There's one there. There we go. Okay, small, sort of much smaller dog-like tracks. Very different to that of hyena, and at least one small youngster. Very clearly seen in the sand over here. So wild dog tracks, very exciting. We did have a wild dog family not so long ago. So let's go and have a look, see if maybe they are not far away. Quite often they will come in from wherever they come from, and they go flying through to the other side of the property, and well, quite often their visits can be quite short and sweet. But anyway, let's see what we can find. We're going to be looking in the shade and the shelter for the dogs. With some David in the Mara is still excited to have you.
Very good, Steve, and please keep us posted because you never know, you might see those very rare and special dogs that sometimes I call painted dogs, and those painted dogs, should they see an antelope like the waterbuck here, I'll tell you, they are very cruel when they hunt antelopes. They have been known to eat animals like this when they are still alive. Unlike other predators like lions or cheetahs, leopards that will hunt their prey and maybe first kill it before eating it, wild dogs have been known just to start eating the animals even before they die. Now you look, two of those waterbucks there. One of them, of course, got horns, which indicates it's male, and the other one to the left of your screen is a female. There are two species of waterbucks in Africa. we have what we call the common waterbuck and the diffuser waterbuck. This one that we have here is called the diffuser waterbuck, and the difference is always on the ramps. If you look on the bottoms of one of them, if you'll be lucky, one of them turns round, as Art is trying to show you there. Below the tail is all white, and that is the diffuser waterbuck. And if you see the other species, it's got like a white ring that looks like a C, and that one is the common waterbuck. Apparently, we see this one more than the common waterbuck, and some of these names sometimes intrigue me when they call them common waterbucks. Is it because of the common, or but I tend to see more of the diffuser waterbuck than the common waterbuck. That one got a young calf next to her. You can see definitely that's a mother and a young one. And waterbacks being ruminants, you can tell she's chewing cud. They basically have one stomach that is divided into 4 chambers, where after they cut the grass or they graze a lot of grass, they keep swallowing at one point when they think they're full, or when they just stop eating for one reason or another, they regurgitate the same grass and chew it to finer particles, then it goes through the whole digestive system. So the youngster have not been left behind in terms of learning how to survive, eat, swallow, regurgitate, and then just chew cud. Beautiful ears. Babu Girl, that is a very good comment, that the waterbacks look like winter animals, and I don't know where, Babu Girl, you come from. I'm sure if you come from North America, either you have the winter season or it's just about to come. Being December, I think definitely you have a winter season. Babu Girl, in Africa here, and more so in East Africa, we do not go through those seasons of winter or summer or autumn or the fall, We have like summer all around the year, and our summer is just broken by 2 seasons of rainfall. Look at that green canopy down the escarpment that we call the Olololo, and see how beautiful the Mara Triangle is. So look at that. That's just lovely. And yeah, the final control says gorgeous. Not sure she remembers this place last time. Maybe she was in the Mara, but it's one place to just sit with or without animals. Just enjoy the picturesque. It looks like a painting when you think of it, but it's all real, that you can see all the way to the horizon. This is one major difference between us and Juma, where Steve is, because here you can comfortably see 20-30 kilometers, maybe straight as a crow would fly. But in Juma, every half a kilometer, you'll get what they call a visual pollution of a bush or something like that. There are lots of animals you'd see in such a forest, including monkeys. Look at that, the scattered trees. Oh, Babu Girl, you come from Zimbabwe. Very good. I'm trying to remember what could be similar to this Babu Girl. Maybe Hwangwe National Park. I'm not sure. In Zimbabwe, but maybe not as green or not as many trees like this. It could be a little bit different. But yeah, thank you to know that. I always remember Zimbabwe of the Vic Falls. And that's one of the, I would say, wonders of the world, seeing the Victoria Falls on the Zambezi River. Nothing similar to that Babu Girl that we got in Kenya, but we've got small streams in certain areas near the equator around Mount Kenya, but very small waterfalls and maybe not more than 2 meters wide, comparing that to the Vic Falls. Time to graze now, and you can see the big rack of horns on that particular male of the waterbuck. Wind is picking up, and so far so good, because if it gets a little faster or the winds get a little stronger, these antelopes will definitely stop eating and start concentrating on what is going around them. Ideally, the wind doesn't, make them do very well in terms of their senses. And that's a male getting so close to that female. You never know what he's doing. They just want to have a little sit down and regurgitate and chew cut. That's fine. Most likely she has eaten enough. Such huge rack of horns that way back from the village they come from, would collect them when we were young boys and would make some musical instruments with them and just blow them. Something similar to the vuvuzela. Fantastic. I want to leave these waterbacks here grazing. They look all in very good shape. A lot to eat because the rains that have been falling have made everything lush and sweet for all the herbivores. And I'm sure Steve is still searching for his painted dogs.
I am indeed, David. Thank you. And indeed, the Mara is a beautiful landscape, but I'm sure it is much greener than it is down here at the moment. Well, we are in the search for these tracks. Fortunately, they crossed Vuetela Access, which is a very busy road, and there were no tracks left on the road there. Well, not very busy, but there's a few cars that travel there, and we are quite far on the western side. So I'm coming through towards our western boundary, just over here, called Triple M, to see if maybe we can spot something lurking under a tree. It is, as I said, quite hot. So there's a very good chance that if the wild dogs are on the property, they're going to be hiding under a tree somewhere, sheltering from the very, very hot sun. Always good to check the boundaries, because if you find them crossing out, well, then they're out, and then you can move on to something different. I wasn't on the Game Drive channel this morning because we were on bushwalk. I didn't hear anybody call them in. And I announced on the radio now, no one has said anything to me, so just took a little bumble along this road here, our western boundary, and see if we might be lucky. Sorry about the bumpy road. This road is relatively bumpy. One of the main accesses to many of the lodges in the northern Sabi Sands. What do you reckon, Darby? You think we might be lucky with some wild dogs? They move at a serious rate of knots, wild dogs, so even if you are right behind them. Well, everybody, you'd like me to have the same luck I did with rollers yesterday with wild dogs today? Well, that would be nice. That would be nice. I would love to show you wild dogs again this year. I had some incredible sightings before I went up to the Mara with the family of wild dogs presenting Steenbok head to the youngsters, and also then an impala fetus. As grim and gruesome as it might seem, it is nature, and it is incredible to be able to witness those scenes. But the wild dogs cover an enormous area, so I don't know when last they were seen on the property, but they come through and they can be gone in a very short space of time. They don't see any of these properties as a sort of large enough area to hold themselves, and they just keep throwing themselves and running and running. You know, Emma, it's hard to say, but I mean, by the fact, Emma wanted to know if I think it's Investec breakaways. Most likely could be. That's the only dog pack I know of in the area. And well, the track that I saw one adult and I saw one youngster. It could have been on the side of the road, that's why we didn't see all of them. So definitely some youngsters. We know that the Investec pack, I'm trying to think how old those youngsters are now. 7 months? I'm sorry, I'm out of touch being away for a few months. I'm sure many of you out there will remember how old those puppies were, or how old they are now. We keep good tabs of them. Love to know if you can send through any comments to me there on #SafariLive. How old is the Investec wild dog puppies now? We're going to keep checking. We'll check all the way down the western boundary. The best spot to check, because most cars drive in the middle of the road, is to try to check right on the side. And so that means you've got to hope that the dog was running there, or if it crossed, you'll see a crossing. But a tricky place nonetheless to spot tracks. But well, when luck is on your side, it is on your side. Davy and I are feeling quite lucky today, but regardless, there are going to be birds, there are going to be other tracks. No doubt we'll bump into an elephant, and maybe Hosana and Tingana will show themselves to us like they did Sydney this morning. Anyway, David is up in the Mara. He is still out bumbling about, and let's go see exactly what his plans are.
Well, Stivovo, I know when luck strikes, he'll always see one exciting animal after the other, one cat after the other. I'm sure it's just a matter of time before his or lady luck strikes. Now, I got some more low antelopes here that, very interestingly, when they're young, they look very different from the adults or from their fathers and mothers. And these are babies or calves of what we call toppies, And you see the difference between the youngsters and the adults. Very different in terms of color, and young ones being tone in color. And you see the adults are brown and a bit grayish on the legs. And these are toppies. That youngster there is just about to catch up with the bigger one there in terms of color. And once fully grown, that's the color they will all have at the end of the day. So when young, they're born like, they look like impalas, and you might easily confuse them for impalas, only that the shapes of the horns are a little different. And see all those are youngsters there, and these are the youngsters of the top. You can see a little bit of the grayish coming up on the side of the leg, and they tend to keep the young ones together, making sure they're pretty safe. Either from there would be, predators, and you'll have either one female taking care of them, or like a nanny who will be behaving, or an auntie who will be behaving like a nanny. The times I compare the wildlife in the Mara to that in South Africa, and more so in Juma, and we have the toppies here, which we do not have in Juma. I'm sure Steve may confirm the same. Omka, that's a very interesting and good question, and you are asking whether we have any animals with branched horns. Not that I know of, especially in East Africa. I'm trying to remember maybe how the okapis would look like, but I highly doubt. All the antelopes I know of with the branched horns, sometimes that you call the antlers, are only found in either Europe or North America. Trying to remember, I'm walking back years of being in the bush, I do not see any one particular herbivore or antelope with branch horns. And the reason we do not have that is because the ones we have, they'll always have the two horns, be they spiral, be they straight, depending on the shape, or be they ridged. Once they lose them, that's it, they don't get them back. But most of the antelopes, say, for example, the deers in Europe or in North America, once they lose their antlers every other season, they'll always regrow them. And one of the difference between those antlers and the horns that we got in our antelopes here, the antlers will always have some like blood flowing in them up, they've got the nerves and the vessels like that, but our horns here got no blood flowing into them. We're going to show you the horns of a toppy now, and you see they don't even take any similarity or any shaping where they could be branched. Not that I know of, and I don't see or think we have any antelopes here that got branch horns. But that's a very good question, Omka. One of the best things I've always loved about the toppies is looking at their ears, and actually going to show you a close-up of an ear, and you see how colorful it is. I've always thought the ears of toppies look like a leaf. The toppies and the steinbocks, yes, the toppies and the steinbock, when you look inside the ear, it's always so beautiful. Hello, female. Yes, it exactly looks like a leaf as much as this female is showing us her ear and also having a lick or just having a wee at the same time. And funny, we have that other one grazing very close to where she just peed. So if I remember the steinbocks in South Africa, if you look at the ears, they have almost the same pattern, and some of the animals, small antelopes, I would say, with the best, ear pattern when you look inside. So saying earlier, the toppies here remind me of the sesebes. In South Africa, you have sesebes, and we don't have the toppies. And here, we don't have the sesebes, we have the toppies. I was trying to compare what other animals we have here and not there, or we have there and not here. And I'm sure Steve will agree with that. Yes, I agree with you, and I mean the final control, it's like the skin might have got a bit of a sweat there, but I'm looking at all the other antelopes I know of that may look like this. I think it's only the toppy that you might think someone came with a suede and took at that particular leg, and I'm not sure whether that helps in camouflage, to keep them away from the antelopes. I would just guess yes, because they will tend to blend in very well. If they stand next to a bush, that could very easily confuse the predators, and they think that's just part of the bush. I'm looking at other antelopes that could be different from what we have here, and I'm looking at nyala. I don't think we have nyala anywhere in East Africa hopefully Steve will be able to see some nyala today. We have lots of nyalas in Juma. I remember 3-4 months ago when I was there, I saw nyalas. Well, I had seen them before, but it was a lot easier for me to see them on a drive while I was in Juma. So toppies will definitely go in herds, sometimes males and females, but occasionally during a particular period that we call lacking, or during the breeding period, you'll get males on their own, and they'll tend to do what we call mud packing, and you'll see the males just trying to dig through the mud, making their horns looking big and standing on termite mounds, trying to impress the girls. And sometimes you'll see them jumping out of the termite mounds and trotting, and you see another vehicle there of some guests who I'm sure are coming to watch these toppies with us. Paula, I don't think it's legal. What would happen is we have always advocated, including myself, leave it where you found it. And always a very big joy to hear name Paula, and happy Christmas Eve, Paula. So I would say it is illegal, because what we want to do when we leave the horns there, we have seen sometimes some moth growing from the horns, and the moth will be feeding on the keratin of those horns. So we would assume by removing them and taking them away, you are denying a particular habitat, some kind of wildlife, be it a moth or butterfly or whatever, more moths that we see, you'll be denying them a habitat where they would be able to keep their generation going. So I would say it's illegal, but I'll tell you what, Paula, the village I come from, I mean, we'll always see them. Sometimes we pick them, sometimes we don't. I mean, nobody cares because not much you do with them. Paula, the only horns that we would pick, and I think we still pick in the villages, are those from big animals or big antelopes like buffaloes, and we pick them for a particular reason. The elders or the old men, when they have big celebrations and they'll need to have a drink, they'll use those horns to have a drink. So they're like traditional glasses, you know. And if you take one full horn of liquor or whatever drink, is that horn, you don't need to take two. One is always good enough to, knock you out and take you to bed. So that's a boy there. I was saying earlier, you'll always see toppies, males and females together. So that justifies what I was saying. And that's a male. And I'm imagining that truck of vehicles there with excited guests who have come into Africa for Christmas will be coming to join us to watch these toppies. Look at the ears I was talking about. Zebra, get out of the way. Come on. Zebra, I said get out of the way because I wanted to have a better profile of the toppies. But then this is how it is here. The animals will always do what they want. Sometimes you might think it's like a set. Look at how those zebras are lined up, and this is beautiful. Zebras, I will leave you to graze. I want to thank you for your time, and we'll take you back to Vov and find out how his search is going.
Super interesting formation, folks. This is the chimney of a termite mound. There's an enormous termite mound under the ground here. You can see it quite clearly by all of this fresh activity that's happening here. And this is something that they've built up the side. It was built in probably an evening or 2 evenings. Quite incredible to elevate sort of the chimney out of the ground. Wind will blow across here and it'll actually be sucked down. So cool air gets sucked in, causing this sort of current-like effect with inside the termite mound to cool them down, because this time of year it gets very, very hot. And when you are a termite mound that doesn't have a big mound on the ground or a big mound up in elevated to pull the air in, you need to sometimes devise some strategies like this to be able to suck the air in. I find it really incredible how this has been built, and I could probably break it with my hands because it's quite narrow, but I'm not going to do that. Hopefully no one's going to drive over this because it's in the middle of the road, and it just goes to show the testament of how strong termites are with their building, because underneath here is a termite mound. There's holes all the way through here in the ground, and yet we've got a road on top of it, no problem at all. I find that super, super exciting. So one of the insects of the year, I think this is the Hodontermes. I have no idea, Lexi, how long it took to make that, but it was here yesterday and I didn't see it 2 days before. So I think I travel this road quite regularly. So this might have taken 24 hours or so to build, but I'm really not sure. It would be interesting to have watched it and seen it develop from the beginning. You can hear a Jacobin cuckoo calling over there. So very, very interesting indeed. It's all been stuck together by soil. Well, the soil has been stuck together with saliva. There's a combination of excrement as well as soil there, and so nutrients are coming from the bottom, always being brought up. So if this does get broken down, the soil gets deposited on top, so nutrient recycling at its best. So very super cool. I'm going to make sure I drive around it. I've never seen a chimney that big before, just coming out of the road. So we followed what we had of the tracks of wild dogs, but they seem to have just vanished. We are quite far on sort of the western side, and we're going to double back towards where there's some water, back up towards Sydney's Dam in the northwest, and see if maybe they've doubled back. Sometimes when wild dogs are hunting, the puppies aren't necessarily hunting with them, but just moving around, trying to keep up, and the adults will hunt and eventually catch something before bringing it back. James Richard, classic. James Richard said Santa's going to have a hard time with that chimney, indeed. Indeed. Well, it's the termites that don't take Christmas holidays. Like us here working the Christmas shift, they are working all the time, non-stop, in their efforts to obviously ingest or break down as much organic material as possible, serving the Queen. They are royal subjects of the Queen who live in that mound their entire life, and well, they don't ever get any holidays or time off or benefits. It's a marvelous system, really, the caste system you find in insects and termites and ants and bees. They're all working for the common good of the species or of their genetic flow. They are all essentially related in a termite mound. So each of them is working with an unselfish sort of gene. They try to assist in the rearing of all of the youngsters and in the benefit of the colony. So for queen and country to a much greater level than ever before in human society. And no doubt the food provided by the termite alates. Oh, well, everybody likes rollers, so we'll start with another roller, shall we? A little bit of a backdrop there. Unfortunately, the light's not so great, Darby. Oh, have I parked badly there? Sorry, Darby. I've parked bad. Oh, and it's gone. We're going to catch him, a European roller. He's going to land in a better branch for us. There we go. I'm going to get much better lighting. He knew that wasn't his best angle. And while talking about the food that termite mounds, when they come out as alates, they are flying termites, the breeding reproductives. When they come out, birds like this European roller, oh, they make good meals of it. Most birds out here, insect-eating birds, monkeys. I've even seen vultures capitalizing. The birds might sometimes sit at the chimney. You'll often find birds sitting on a termite mound trying to capitalize on any of the termites that are either flying out or trying to repair the damage created by any. Because when the alates are formed, the soldiers come up, or when they're being released, should I say, the soldiers come up and they actually open up sort of gateways out of the termite mound, and then they're often vulnerable to being eaten as they come out. To sort of, the soldiers stand guard so that nothing can come in, because they're basically waiting to release the breeding group, and while they're going out, they are at risk of organisms coming in, namely certain ant species that come in and eat them, and so they'll stand guard. So some birds will hang around the outside and just pluck them off while they're waiting, but there are so many inside that a few that are eaten don't really seem to dent the population. But what I find one of the most fascinating things about termites is that when a number of them are killed, depending on whether they're soldiers or workers, or maybe a lot of the breeding alates have gone out, there are pheromones sent around, and the queen has communicated with the pheromones, and she knows exactly how many of the new type of termites to produce. So obviously the eggs are all laid, and through her pheromones she's able to say that selection over there is going to be workers, that selection over there is going to be soldiers, and they just keep boosting in the numbers as their soldiers and workers sort of perish. So very, very interesting system. The life and intricacies of termites are very, very cool. Cheetah, you want to know the lifespan of a termite queen? Some people have gone as far as to say 50 years. I've never seen or spent enough time to really know the truth in that. But up to 20 years is an enormous time for an insect to live. So 50 years for a colony, I think, is quite incredible. They can get about this big, the female. She stays with just a small body in the top. Obviously, different species will have different sort of ideas. I can quickly show you one of the queens. I did bring my insect book today. It's always handy to bring an insect book out at this time of year. Let me just try and find it for you quickly. Reading and driving is always very safe when you're driving at 5 kilometers an hour. Okay, well, I'm going to find this information for you in the book to show you a few pictures of these termite queens, who are incredibly large and completely useless, dependent on all of their soldiers and workers to look after them. But while we do that, let's go back up to David Gitu.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of data and information for us, but we got some big antelope here, if I may call that, this buffalo. It's just doing two things. It's just wallowing in that little jacuzzi, and he's not alone. I think there are 3 of them, and they're in there maybe for 2 reasons. Number 1, maybe to cool off, and 2, wallowing and chewing cud, as you can see. And the flies are quite a nuisance to them. We've got the flies even on the horns. I already know what those flies are doing there. And this is a classical example, Paula, of the horns you're talking about, where you're asking whether it's illegal, Paula, to take the horns away in the villages or take them in our homes, because we have known a particular moth that's called the horn moth that have always built on bred on buffalo horns. So ideally, I would think to take, say, a rack of, big horns like this from the buffalo here would be quite unfair to those moths, because we'll be denying them some habitat to procreate. Good stretch there from that buffalo. This is the African Cape buffalo, one of the most dangerous animals that we got in Africa. And don't know what he spotted. He's looking towards the Ololo escarpment. But again, as I said earlier, when there's a bit of wind, these antelopes will always either panic or not know exactly what is happening, because they have known once in a while the predators like lions will take advantage of such kind of weather. Nice forest behind them, and there's a little stream behind that forest, and I guess they might go to drink there, if not drink where they are in. Buffaloes are very water dependent, and they drink lots of water. They need take a long time before drinking water. So buffaloes have been trying to compare or do parallel of animals that we have here in Joma. Oh, definitely we have the buffaloes here, and they're the only other comparison I'd want to do is maybe in terms of size, which buffaloes are slightly bit bigger than others, or are they the same size? Sorry, I missed that. And they might stay in that water for quite some time before they leave it to go out. Oh, gotcha, yes, and I'm saying they're having a buffalo's party. It's possible because they may also be having an idea. Today's the Christmas Eve, and hopefully tomorrow when they come out, they'll come out looking good on their Christmas day. Well, as I say, pretty dangerous animals, and the 3 of them here, I can tell you for a fact, they are males. They are males because of their size. They are males because of the size of their horns. Males having much bigger horns than females that we call boss. You can see how wide that base of horn is that we call a boss. Of course, chewing cud, like the waterbacks we saw earlier. And buffaloes are the only animals I know where the species or where the females, once the boys start getting a little bit tired, the girls will show them the door. And you know, you don't want to live alone having lived with females or with, youngsters, young calves, and one day you're on your own. So when we talk of animals that cause a lot of harm or deaths in Africa, to me, buffalo, top the list, especially from the village I come from. And remember, the safari we do is very interactive. We like being engaged. So should you have any questions or comments, you can send them through to me, to Steve, #SafariLive. While talking of big mammals like buffaloes, Steve wants to talk about small little things.
Well, thank you, David. Indeed, the big buffalo versus termites, there is a very big difference between them, but ecologically, termites are the most important, well, one of the most important insects out here. And I've managed to find an image for you on my phone. The one in my book is not as big as I'd like it to be, but this is one of the fungus-growing termites. You can see this is her body, or her head and sort of abdomen over here, and all of those next to them are the smaller workers. There's some soldiers there, and the rest of that over there is her body, that huge white abdomen area, and that is just a pulsating egg machine. Some people say 50,000 eggs per day are potentially laid by this queen, who is basically just in there, and she is fed by her workers on a constant basis. So termite queens can live anywhere from 25 to 50 years, and with massive egg production for over a 10-year period. And she releases pheromones into sort of the area, into the whole hive, so as to prevent any of the other so-called queens from becoming reproductive. So it kind of stops her being stimulated. So as soon as a queen dies, that pheromone stops getting let off, and suddenly the chemical is not there anymore, almost like a sort of the pill, for example. You're not going to be breeding, for example. And so as soon as that pheromone is stopped, there's like an arms race for all of the potential new queens to grow, and well, they grow very quickly. And one of them, as soon as it reaches a certain size, starts letting off the pheromone, and she then is the queen. So the alates are the flying termites, the very common insects that we see flying around. They look kind of like this over here on the bottom right. Excuse me, with those wings, and they that's what I was saying the roller would be feeding on. And thanks, Davy. And so they are an important food source for many. So after rainfall, the ground gets wet, and those alates, who can have been staying under the ground for over a year, are released out. They go into what we call a nuptial flight, where they have to fly, even if it's a couple of inches. The female will then land on the ground and let off a pheromone, which will then attract the male, and the male can find her from as far away as a couple of kilometers. And once they meet each other, they'll mate, and then they'll bury themselves on the ground. She'll still be quite small, but she'll immediately start producing eggs. She's still quite small at that stage, so the colony itself is very small, and the first workers then help to assist her in rearing and producing more and more eggs. It is a really interesting combination of social organization within a community. Recycling of nutrients and production of food. And the termite mounds that we know of, these large fungus-growing termites, are home and habitat for so many organisms. I wonder if any of you out there know who is the most closely related insect to termites. #SafariLive, let me know. What is the closest relative to the termite? Joy, you want to know if these termites eat wood. Now, you get what we call dead wood termites. The fungus-growing termite and the harvester termite that we find here, so the large fungus-growing termite, they are essentially both feeding on cellulose, so on organic material, small grass pieces and the like. Whereas the small fungus-growing termite, the one that I showed you there, or that small little mound on the ground, they can be extremely destructive with wood. But there's also the dead wood termite, and well, they are all over the place in all different countries in the world, and they do feed on poles and the like, and that's why people have to treat wood. But termites out here don't essentially kill trees. They might feed on the bark around trees. They call that biotubation, where they feed on the bark and the dying organic material, but the tree itself that is still living is still okay. So when we build a house, we should build houses out of living trees, and well, then the termites are not going to be a problem. Okay, so from a tracking point of view, I believe there is a new viewer who would like us to do some tracking this afternoon. You can tell me the name of that individual shortly, Emma, but Jocelyn, you want us to do some tracking. Well, on an afternoon like this, you can see how I'm squinting at the camera. The light is really, really high at the moment, so the tracking is not ideal at the moment because of the angle of the light. But in the morning, that is the best time to do tracking. Yes, I can see tracks now, and I could probably show you some, but I won't do them any justice at this time of day because of the angle of the sun and the depth of the track with the light. The light is too high up, so it doesn't give the nice shadow that we're looking for. But in the early morning and maybe in the late afternoon, that's the best time to look at tracks. But in the early morning, most of the animals have been moving around by night, and that is when tracking is at its best. So we will do so for you tomorrow morning if that is okay. Justin, on Christmas morning, we'll do some tracking, most certainly. Ravinda, you want to know if it's ants? Roshni, you want to know if it's ants? No, ants are more closely related to wasps. Not at all. I know they might have a very similar sort of... Ooh, K6, you say crickets. It is not crickets. Not crickets, actually. You're all going to be quite surprised when you find out what the actual closest... Coast cider. I don't even know what a silverfish is. Fish moth, perhaps. Not that, though. Silverfishy things that are like fish moths, I think. They're the things that eat your clothes. It is not them. Not them. James Richard, of course, sir, you have got the right answer there. Anybody else, if you want to still throw in a few more comments, see if you can get it. James Richard has got it right. I'll give the big reveal in a moment. Vicky, not a praying mantis at all. No, praying mantises are a very different kettle of fish altogether. Well, anyway, while we wait for a few more answers to come through, James Richard got it right. We are right up on our northern boundary. We're going to have a quick little look at Sydney's dam, see if we can see anything lurking around. I believe that new pride of lions that I haven't yet quite learnt how to pronounce was seen somewhere up here this morning. I'm not sure exactly where, but being quite hot, there are lots of it standing around here. Rosalind, no, not a bee. Bee is part of the Hymenoptera family, the flying bees, many of them. Termites, and I'll give you all the answer now. James Richard got it right. The closest relative to the termite is in fact the cockroach. Very ancient creatures. Some of the oldest insects around, and it's possibly why the termite has developed such a strange or such an intricate sort of social system. Both of them being very integral actually in nature. Most people don't like cockroaches, but they are very important for waste removal. And in the distance there, Darby, we've got some zebra. I haven't seen a zebra since I've been back. After the Mara, zebra were everywhere. Everywhere. They've just been to Sydney's dam for a little bit of a drink, and by the fact that there are lots of animals here looking quite relaxed, I'm going to assume that the lion pride that was somewhere here this morning is probably moved off into the thickets where it is much cooler, and somewhere where we would like to probably be for a moment in the shade and in the respite. But maybe we'll find a muddy wallow to cover ourselves in, to keep us protected from the biting flies and to cool us from the hot baking sun.
Yeah, it's always very good to compare those small little, insect like termites to man, and it's true their closest relatives are cockroaches. And not sure I remember this for a fact, that termites weigh a lot more than all human beings in the world put together. I'm not sure that's the way it was or what I was taught in school, but I remember something similar or close to those lines. Well, the buffaloes are still enjoying their jacuzzi, or buffaloes... Yeah, Emma agrees with me. She thinks that's true, that the biomass of all the termites, or the weight of termites all, put together, they weigh more than all human beings put together. You can imagine how small they are and what they've been able to do, as Steve was explaining, how they build their termite mounds. But at the same time, the damage they are able to do, you can't believe that such small little things can bring a whole, skyscraper or a big structure building down. Well, these buffaloes, the two of them, as Em was saying, they are on buffaloes per day out. 2 are in and 1 is out. Why he is out, I have no idea. But sometimes, even with the males, they could be having a bit of hierarchy here, and maybe these 2 are the main guys. Steve, I would guess, to me, I have always believed they are more of antelopes. As much as we'll say they belong to the bovinae family, but I will call them big antelopes, more of antelopes than the bovines. We have always seen some authorities grouping them as bovinae, but to me, I think buffaloes are huge antelopes. Look at that face there, Steve. That's not the face you want to see when you're walking out in the African wilderness. I mean, when we walk on our own in our village, of course, we go walking in small little thickets and paths. We are always very careful. The only animal we don't want to meet with is the buffalo, for one obvious reason. He's looking at you like that, and a buffalo is not an animal you can read his mood. And what I'm saying is they are very unpredictable. He will look, he will not frown. Unlike an elephant, before an elephant, attacks you or does a particular move, elephants will give you warning. Either they'll, trumpet, or they will cock their ears, or they'll fold their ears against the bodies. You'll see the trunks going up. You'll see them first maybe doing a mock charge. None of that is done by a buffalo. He might face away, as you just saw there, and the next 1 second, he'll be 2 meters from where you are. And because he'll get you a surprise, not much you can do. We have always had the animals that we call the big 5 in Africa, and buffaloes are, one of the big 5. But I'm saying I've always thought we could call the buffaloes 2 of, double big 5, because they're the animals, of course, giving them that coinage of the big 5 is the animals, many hunters used to bring down way before, but also the animals that are most dangerous. But if I look at the 5 of them, to me, the buffalo is more dangerous than the other 4. I'm sure Steve might agree with me. Leopards are equally dangerous, but I've known buffaloes doing more harm to many people. Paula, very good question, and very happy to know you are still watching. Yes, in general, all ruminants will have 4 stomachs, but apparently, I'll tell you what, Paula, is only 1 stomach that is divided into 4 chambers, or masum or bamasum, and is only 1 stomach, but in theory is 1, but divided into 4. So just like the cows, Paula, they also got 4, and cows also, like the buffaloes, they'll also chew cud. He decided to have a little break before continuing to chew cud. I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe his days when he was with the females. This one's still busy chewing cud. You can see the red in the ears with all those flies there. As they get older, the skins tend to crack a lot. I will see the flies, they're trying to suck whatever fluid they could get from there. The eyes, he needs to wash his eyes. I'm not sure the last time he had a little shower. You can see the saliva as he chews the cud there. Yeah, I mean, this is one animal you don't want to meet, eh? Well, I would say, yeah, that, unlike man, where we have always messed our teeth by maybe the wrong diet, herbivores in general got very clean and white teeth, of course, because of their diet. And there's a huge difference between herbivores and carnivores. As they get old, the carnivores, you'll notice, for example, leopards and lions, the teeth tend to get yellowy. But for the herbivores, they tend to remain as white as possible. And I'm talking of what they eat. And the process maybe of eating the grass and the leaves they'll chew. Some of the sticks end up being like small little twigs and with bristles which can brush their teeth. Well, Steve, are you winning? Are you seeing some antelope for us?
Thanks, David. Well, this is an animal you don't see up in the Mara, if you can see it, that is. And one was standing in the middle of the road, which means their camouflage is null and void when they're in the road. There's actually 4 of them. I'm sure you'll see them in a moment. There we go. Well, when it's standing in the middle of the road, quite easy to spot. Trying to sneak up on them without alerting them. We're just also keeping in a little bit of shade, which is quite pleasant, I must say. There we go, Darby. How's that? There we go. Beautiful little family of kudu. You see how they stand very, very still. They're not too bothered by us, though, but that is the strategy. You see their ears, they're listening to me, trying to figure out what that interesting sound is. You can see that very interesting, Jocelyn, if you're watching, the way that kudu was walking. Their front foot steps on the ground, and then their back foot steps on exactly the same spot. I might be able to get a look at that in a moment. That is one of the ways to learn how to track, is you see an animal walk, go there and have a look where it walked, and that is a great way to learn. When you don't have anybody to teach you, you can learn by observation. And that is how a lot of tracking was done initially, obviously, or how to observe what plants animals eat. A lot of studies are done via observation. And, well, when you see an animal walk somewhere, I think it might actually work better in the shade there, Darby. Do you think? I've got one just here from that young male that was walking. Roshni, they remind you of camels. That's very interesting. I suppose the sort of hump on the back there kind of looks a little bit like a camel. Let me just try and find this track for Darby quickly. Okay, I'm going to jump out. Sorry if my head jumps into the way. Jump over here. Okay, so here we've got the track. Darby, is this one going to work for you? Okay, so we've got 2 tracks here. We've got the big track, which is underneath. There's the back. It's a hoof track, and it goes all the way to the front, and then on top of it is the back foot, which is just over here. Can you see that? The back foot's much smaller than the front foot. The front foot is that wide over there, and the back foot is that wide over there. And it's one of the characteristic features of the Tragelaphus family, the spiral horn family, the kudu nyala bushbuck, is when they walk with their front foot and their back foot steps on exactly the same spot. It is an element of silent walking. You saw how big their ears were. Well, their ears are there to hear everything. If I'm walking and I'm making all the sound on the ground, well, I'm disturbing my own hearing. And so kudus walk very quietly, obviously to be silent, so not to give away their presence, and then also so that they can hear anything that might be trying to sneak up on them. Very nice strategy for animals that live and hide in the thickets. But as I said, sorry, my Velcro on here has come off. We wear this very interesting mic bra around our stomach, which sometimes is quite uncomfortable. But anyway, so I hope that is a nice track for you this afternoon, Jocelyn. It's one that we were able to get there quite easily, and very nice to see because we saw the kudu, and then you can go and observe it. So whenever you see an animal, if you ever do happen to be out in the African wilderness, or anywhere in fact, see an animal walk, then go and have a look at how it's walking. And you can also see by the pace at which an animal's walking, because obviously the kudu was walking there and not running, because it was practicing that direct register that we call when the animal steps exactly on its back, on its front foot. It's something that lions and leopards do when they are stalking. You can imagine when they're trying to stalk, they're also trying to be very quiet. If you've ever seen an animal, a cat stalking, oh, that is a vehicle. Whenever you've seen a cat stalking, they move very quietly, and when their front foot goes, their back foot comes in at the same time. That's to be stealthy, that's to be quiet, it's to not give away their position. So we call that directly registering. Michigan, as far as I'm aware, it is the greater kudu. As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure where we get the lesser kudu. It's a good question. I think you've stumped me there. Intriguing, intriguing. So sometimes the brain doesn't work as well as you'd like it to. If anybody can shed some light on... Yes, okay. Yeah. So I think I'm pretty sure it's a greater kudu down here. I'm pretty sure. I've never seen a lesser kudu before. I think they occur much further north. And yes, Emma's feeding into my ear that it is indeed East Africa, but not in the Mara that I've seen. They don't occur in the open places of the Mara. So where exactly in Kenya and those areas they do occur, I am not sure. But I'm certain I've never seen one, and I don't really know too much with regards to the difference between them. I'm sure it's got a lot to do with just the geographical distance between them. There's slight differences, so they've just given them a slightly different name. Whether there is an enormous difference in the size, I'm really not sure. Maybe David Gitu, who is an expert of the Eastern African wildlife, well, he maybe seen a lesser kudu. He's definitely seen a greater down here. Maybe you can shed some light on what the differences are, seeing as he's from there.
Well, in Kenya we got two species of kudu. Oops, sorry about that. We got the lesser kudu and the greater kudu. But initially, first I left my buffaloes because I saw something move down here from when I was watching the buffaloes, and I thought I saw a tail of a lion flick up and down, and I want first to confirm if that would be the case. It would be very interesting because initially I saw ellies from a distance, and that would mean the buffaloes be on one side, ellies on the other, and the lions in the middle. That would be some exciting sighting that I've not seen for quite some time. It happens, and let me just get a little closer and see whether that's the case. And if there are lions, I guess there's something like that I saw, because I saw a tail flick and I saw the black part or the tip of lions. You know, they're always black. So I just want to be 100% sure whether what I saw were lions or not. And I'm very convinced they must have been. I saw it standing up, then it went down. So let's just cross fingers, and hopefully they were. And if it was a lioness or a lion, it will definitely not be one. There could be two, maybe three, which one is still fine. We have always said one is better than nothing. It will be exciting to see a cat. We haven't seen a cat, both of us, me and Steve, since we started. And this is the exact spot I think I saw it, unless it has moved elsewhere. Well, there are a few differences apart from the size between the greater kudu and lesser kudu. The size, of course, is one of them. I'm not sure which one has some two stripes here and the other one does not have. And then the lesser kudu has more body stripes on it than the greater kudu. Those could be the two major differences between the two. One, size, and stripes right coming like to the eyes, like windshield, like that. So which will be found on the lesser kudu and not the greater kudu. Well, what I saw could have gone, and I thought it was lions I saw here. Let me have one more quick look. Because if it's getting a bit chilly now, and if it's getting a bit chilly, they might have gone down maybe on this particular bush to hide. Maybe I will see something. If not, I will know where to follow them. They might have gone for a drink somewhere. Nope. What should happen, my guess is they might have moved on to a different area, and if they have done that, they might have gone flat and they lied down. And definitely it's very easy just to drive without seeing them, but I'm sure I will get them because I haven't seen them moving a lot. Very good. I think I was right. I was talking of the lesser kudu having more stripes in the body. I think I was right. That's what I said, apart from the size and the two like white shields on the face there. I say the lesser kudu has more white stripes than the greater kudu. Very good. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Picky, for that. Thank you for reminding me. And apparently, in the Mara, we don't have any kudus. I haven't seen a single kudu in the Mara. They are more of semi-arid areas, and to see them in Kenya, you need to go further to the north of the equator. in an area called Laikipia. That's where you would see the kudus. We do not have them here in the Mara Triangle. Well, I think those lions are gone. I'm not worried. I'm staying here. The weather's still good, it's still holding, no signs of rain, so I have all the time to comb all the grass around here to still see those lions. Ajay, lions' favorite place to hide, Ajay. Lions could be anywhere. They'll surprise you the places you see them. Sometimes it's the very least expected. Like this morning, AJ, I was out on a drive and I had done about an hour and a half without any lions, and I decided to come out because AJ, we got the rains at the moment. It's becoming very tricky to get out of the big roads to go to the smaller roads or to go to the feeder roads. And because it was a bit tricky, it's a bit slippery being out there, and I told Arch, you know what, we don't want to continue like this because you might get stuck. And the soil chemistry here, AJ, is the black cotton soil as you see there. And when it rains, it gets very sticky and it's always very soft. So for a heavy car like this, if it gets in the soil and you get stuck, you try to spin, you keep digging yourself. Anyhow, I decided to come back to the road, and as soon as I got to the big road, there were 11 lions on the road walking. And I walked with them for about 15-20 minutes. So that's how it goes. But ideally, if they want to hunt a jay, they definitely must get some cover. They're not going to expose themselves. They have no business hunting. You might even get them on top of a termite mound. Or even at times, you get them on top of a tree. It could be anywhere. I mean, there's a particular breed of lions here in the Mara Triangle that we call the Sausage Pride. And the one named, most cats here, I mean, be they lions or cheetahs or leopards, will always have a theme to name them. And that particular pride was named the Sausage Pride because there's a particular tree here in the Mara Triangle that is called the sausage tree. And when you've got lots of flies on the ground, they become very irritating to the lions. Or if the ground is very wet, like now with the rains now. So this particular breed of lions were known, or we even now, we have known them to climb those particular trees. And those trees have very, very thick trunks. And the base, I mean, the trunks, the branches are quite huge and pretty smooth, and very big leaves which would form very good shade. So those, or that particular pride always went on top of those trees, and they were named the sausages. Anyhow, the point is, lions could be anywhere from the ground to the road, on top of rocks, and also on top of trees. Of course, depending on what they're doing, depending on what they want. Sometimes they would use those trees as a vantage point to look and maybe spot some game. So yeah, I mean, they could be in the grass laying somewhere, because after I followed that particular pride of 11 lions that we call the Ololo Pride for that particular period, 15-20 minutes, they ended up going in the grass and they laid flat. And I want to believe anybody who came after me in that particular area, chances are he or she could not see them or did not see them. They just tend to blend in very well in the grass. And when I'm talking about a big road, Jai is a road like this. This is what I would call maybe my M25 in the bush. Today, or this afternoon, having not much rain, we might, tend to venture a little bit inside those small, feeder roads and find out whether we could see more game. In the meantime, back to South Africa, to Steve Ovo.
Thanks, David. It is incredible how you can see a lion and then suddenly out of nowhere just vanishes in the long grass. It is quite disheartening, to be honest. I mean, that is what the camouflage is all about. We talked about the kudu camouflage before, and they need to walk silently. But lions have this amazing ability to just vanish. And I'm sure the grass is getting long again in the Mara there with the rain that's been falling. It happens here as well. I think I was with Sebastian, one of our other cam-ops, a while ago, and we were with Tundi, the female leopardess of the area, and we were watching her stalking in Impala. We were right behind her, and then she just moved a little bit to the right. Gone. Gone. one of those things, though. These animals are designed to blend in. Oh, well, you can even lose elephants in the thickets here if you're not careful. Darby, would you like me to go back a bit? Okay, let's go back a little bit for the Ellies. Tell me when you're happy, sir. There we go. Beautiful herd of elephant. I mean, talk about losing lions and losing leopards in the thickets. Many a time I've been with a herd of elephant that you can clearly see now. They are quite large and grey, and within moments they can just vanish into the bushes there without a trace. Surprisingly very quiet when they move. They don't walk like the kudu does, where they step on their front foot. They've got a very nice cushioning on their feet, which acts as a shock absorber, but at the same time also releases the pressure on the sound, or sort of muffles the noise that they might have. You can hear many an antelope walking, and well, you can't really hear an elephant unless you're close enough and there is some sand. You can hear them sort of moving it or squelching it slightly, but incredible how quiet they really can be. As the Levaillant cuckoo calls off in the distance here, some baby elephants are heating up, flapping the ears vigorously, because, well, the smaller babies heat up much quicker than the adults. They also cool down much quicker. So for those of you who are maybe new to the show, elephants have got their own designed air conditioning system built into their ears, and behind the ears a very thin membrane of skin with a very nice network of capillaries and veins running through, and by flapping they cool themselves down. So an elephant flapping its ears is not being aggressive. It is merely just cooling itself, and with the ability of an adult to pump about 9 litres of blood through their ear every minute, they're able to slowly cool themselves down. And they'll also often cover themselves in mud, like David's buffalo you are seeing there. Obviously they do it slightly differently. Buffalo has to really get down in it and roll around, whereas elephants are able to stand nice and tall using their long, elongated nose to pick it up and splash it all over themselves. Probably the most versatile nose in the world, without a doubt. You can see the adults are also flapping, but this is warm for them, but not as warm as that little youngster who's probably experiencing probably the first hottest season. Maybe it's the second one of its life, and it knows that by standing in the shade and flapping vigorously seems to work. No doubt these elephants, after a little bit of feeding, will slowly move towards Voyatella watering hole, which is just down the way here. And there are a number of muddy pans not far away. Hello, Sammy. You want to know if an ant can bite through an elephant's skin? Well, elephant's skin in most places is about that thick. There are some soft parts sort of around, sort of underneath the area by the private parts, and then also behind the ears is very, very thin. But not necessarily. Ants don't really cause elephants any harm. Every now and again you do find some ticks on elephants, especially on the younger ones, sometimes here on the chest. But the skin is very, very thick. Very, very thick and tough. And well, as we say it, this herd of elephants is slowly vanishing into the thickets there. Nice and peaceful. Gentle giants of the African savannah. I think with this weather, this heat being very sticky, there's a bit of a breeze picking up. Either this evening is going to be nice and overcast, or tomorrow morning we might even have a thunderstorm that could come through, but doesn't look like anything's building up in the west for the moment. That is where our thunderstorms come from. But this is one hot day. Tomorrow might be another hot day, and maybe we will get some rain for Christmas afternoon. Wouldn't that be a blessing? We are planning on spending some time around the swimming pool tomorrow, and the FC girls, well, obviously all the girls that we work with have had lots of creative ideas, and we're building gingerbread houses tomorrow. Never done that before. Bucket list check. Dave, have you built a gingerbread house before? Emma's very excited. Her and Alicia were busy building or baking the walls a little while ago, while some of us were enjoying the coolness of the swimming pool, living in luxury. It was the girls' choices to bake and us to swim. We didn't help because they didn't ask us to help. They wanted to. There was no forced labor. We found the girls there. We went to swim and we found them there. We just wanted to eat and they said no. But we are forming teams tomorrow and we're going to be building gingerbread houses and then eating them. Never done it before. Sounds quite interesting. Sounds quite fun, actually. Okay, so Jocelyn, this is something for you because you are the new viewer with the tracking. So here we have got some tracks in the road. And these are the easiest tracks to discern. I'm going to jump off again for you to understand what's going on. Davy, we're going to start with the ones on the left-hand side here. Here we go. Can you get this one? Yep. Okay, so Jocelyn, because you're the new viewer for the tracks, these are very large. I'm going to draw it for you. And there it is there in the sand. Someone drove over the side of it earlier. But there's the one track, and there is the other track. And see if you can see the shape for me. It is very nice, round over here. See how round it is? It's almost the same size. And this piece over here is very, very shiny. And here is a bit of a flick in the sand, and that is essentially from the elephant's toe. This is an elephant track, and there is the toe where it's kicked moving forward. And now I told you the elephants, they move quietly, and so that splays out. All the weight is on the front legs because of the head and the shoulders, so they need much wider feet in the front. And so this animal was walking, but very quickly. You can see that this track over here is very oval and round. This is the back foot, and the elephant's tracks will always be front foot. And the back foot will always sit either here or in front. It'll never be behind. If it's behind, the elephant was standing. So what has happened here is the shiny bit. It's like if I demonstrate with my shoe, I'm going to come walking, and I put my weight down on the back of the foot, and I move forward, flick with the toe. You can see over here the weight is on the back of my foot, and the flick forward is from my toe releasing the sand. And so with this elephant here jumping again, there is the front foot, and there is the back foot. This elephant was walking at quite a pace. The closer this is to that one, the slower it was moving. And jumping over to just over here, Darby, can you get this one as well? This is a little baby elephant. How's this? Yeah, look at the size of that one. It is tiny. Probably that little youngster that we saw hiding in the bushes there. Very, very small. And well, also going that way with mum. So anyway, that is the herd of elephants. You can see on this side of the road much more of the tracks moving along, lots of shiny bits at the back, all heading in one direction. So if you can't really make out the shape of the track, look for the shiny bit. Here you can see it very, very easily. Look at that shiny bit over there. You can't actually see the rest of the foot, but the shiny bit, because that's where all of the weight is going. Elephants are going that way. So through tracking, you can work out direction, you can work out speed, you can also work out species, of course. And well, there's lots and lots of means and methods to also determine how fresh the track was. Well, I said we weren't going to get too much into tracking, but something I thoroughly enjoy. So sorry, Emma, Sinak asked about females. I don't know what species you asked me there. Oh, yes. Hello, Sinak. You want to know about elephant male and female tracks? Well, a young elephant, very hard to tell if a young elephant is male or female by the track. But when you come across a big male elephant, there's no mistaking his tracks at all. They are enormous. enormous, enormous, enormous. And obviously males get much bigger than females, and their shoulders or their head gets much bigger, so their front feet are enormous. And when you come across a male elephant, well, first of all, it's impossible not to identify it as a male. Females generally keep in herds. What way are they? Anyway, females are generally in herds, so you'll generally find lots of them with some youngsters. But to identify young males in amongst that is very hard, very hard. But one thing that you can see, and I'll see if I can find it, male elephants, when they walk, they often drag their trunk on the ground because while they get quite lazy with the trunk, it's very heavy, and they're trying to smell where the ladies have gone to, and they can smell elephants days after they've passed. And so you'll find the tracks of the male elephant, and you'll find this like dragging sort of movement on the ground. That is often from a male elephant as he's trying to ascertain where exactly the females have gotten to. Because as we all know, it is all about the ladies. I'm going to go that way and come down. Anyway, David Gitu is up in the Mara. I don't think he's looking at any tracks. He's still trying to find the lions hidden in the long grass.
Well, very good, Steve. Now, these are the lions I saw earlier, and they decided to play games with me. And now I had stopped here thinking or hoping they'd come towards the direction I am in. I saw one and I thought, yes, it's a lioness I had seen, or a lion, because I saw the flick of a tail and I saw that black tip, which is very characteristic of lions, and then it disappeared. I've tried to follow by instinct, thinking where they would have gone, and found that they left where they were and they entered in that particular bush, and they just came out a few meters, and I was like telling Archie most likely they're going to come downhill because it's a pretty high point where they are. But again, they're still playing games with me. When I stopped here thinking they're going to come towards us, they decided to stop. Now, these two belong to the pride that we call the Olololo pride. They belong to the Olololo, and Olololos are always 16. And not sure what he or she can see in that particular bush. Not anything whatsoever I can see. And, well, that doesn't mean anything, sitting down there. So the Olololos went together. They're 16. It's a pride of 16, the largest pride that we have in the Mara Triangle. We've got so many prides here. And what I want us to do is just now to turn and see if we can get a little closer to them. And while they're staying that far, I'll see whether they can get a road that can take me up here. Let me see how it looks like, if there's a road or not, and then try and go a little closer to them. I mean, I haven't seen lions this afternoon, neither Steve. Sayfly is asking, there's a what in the Mara? Very good. So that's a very good question. And you'd like to know if there is a speed limit in the Mara. Yes, there is. And the maximum you can do is 40 kilometers per hour. 40 kilometers per hour you are allowed to drive. But of course, when you're in such areas, you are not even given the speed, because you can see the terrain is pretty tough here. You just have to go very slowly and surely, making sure you do not get stuck. So the speed limit is 40 maximum. Hopefully our Land Rover going to make it here. And her name is Paka. I think so far she's doing very well. And we'll see if they can get as close as we can. Never too late. You say that's too steep, but I can tell you the name of my Land Rover here is Paka, and Paka, through the local language, translates to a cat. And what she's doing, she's just going up like that. So what you need to do is to engage the low ratio of the car, and that gives the car a big or a better torque, and then all the four tires simultaneously go together. And the car is quite comfortable, and you can sometimes go not this but something like that, which is pretty good, because when I get those lions, I'll show you how high I am and the gradient I am against the Mara triangle. And then you do number 1 or gear number 2. So let's see how close we can get to them. Nice. Ravinda, do antelopes have a better visual? I would say yes, because they need one of the survival, I would say, tactics, Ravinda, of the antelopes is to see better. So if they don't see well, it's quite a challenge. So yes, I would say they got great visuals and they have no choice than to see better. Sometimes they do smell if you're talking about predators, but I think the bigger thing to them is having good visuals of what could be happening. Now I'm so close now to these lionesses, and I guess there are 3 lionesses. Then we get very close to make sure I know what sex they are. But one of them looks like a huge mama of huge lioness, and then the other 2 I will know what they are. They've placed themselves in a little bit of an awkward angle, but let's see what we can do from here, because I want to give you the face. So let me go round a little bit, and at least we're able to see the lovely faces. Finally, Parker has done a very good job. He has been able to bring us up. Yes, and this is pretty high, and I think there are 3 girls, and the view from here looking down the Mara Triangle is just magnificent. So what I want to do is to get to the faces of these 3 beautiful girls, I guess. So let me turn and make sure. Got this, Rachi? Back up. Okay. Alrighty. So keep coming. Keep coming. Okay. I think Archie is happy with that angle there. And there we are. Finally, I've been able to catch up with these Olololos, and that is definitely one big mama there. I'm not sure, yeah, they're enjoying the same view just like us. And I mean, the vendor control says, wow, gorgeous. From where they are, if I can be in their mind and seeing what they're seeing, they have such a great view of the Mara Triangle. To me, they all look like 3 girls, and if they're 3, these are the main, I would say, females in this particular pride of the Olololo. Let's first show you how it looks down there from up here, and it's just magnificent. Look at that. And apart from that one car that would remove, you know, from our scene, this is such a beautiful act. You could not ask for anything better in the world than such a view. It's a view that I call with no pollution or with no visual pollution, just seeing Mother Nature at her best. And if you take a balloon and you fly over the Mara, that's how it looks like from up there. So the one tree here, the one tree there, the one bush there. So ideally that makes something like what you call spots. And those spots in the local people is what they call the Mara. And of course Maasai are the people who live here. Well, one of our lionesses here seems to be having a snooze. And either they might have seen something earlier, and maybe they want the darkness to come and lay a strategy and maybe go and hunt. Who knows? Typical of lions to go flat, typical of them to sleep. And there they are, enjoying their nap. Hello there, beautiful girl. And remember, this is a very interactive safari. When you talk to us, you give us lots of joy in terms of questions or comments. And you can do that on Twitter using #SafariLive. Hello. So I guess 4 females in this particular pride. Lorena, you say she is so pretty. Thank you, Lorena. and definitely she is. And she's fully grown girl, Lorena, and definitely I would say as she looks there, she looks to me more in charge of the other two. She's more alert, and initially when you got here, as she was trying to go up before coming down, she seemed to be giving the other two instructions on what to do. I bet should there be a reason or a time for them to go hunting, she might be the one pulling the shots and giving directions to the other two. There are about 7 other youngsters in this particular pride, and other females which are also young, which are not here with them. In the morning I saw 11, and these 3 were not there. So it's the 11 plus these 3, that would make 14. And I'm imagining there are 2 others that are somewhere, and chances are the 2 that are not here, the 2 that I did not see in the morning, could be young males. Particular age 2.5 years going to 3 is always right age for the lions to leave the pride, and either they're preparing to do that, because if they don't, then the dominant males around this area, and I'm talking about the Quichua males, will come and show them the door. Of course, the dominant or the coalition of the males around here don't want the young boys, mating with their mothers or mating with their first cousins. And of course, that definitely helps avoid inbreeding. Sleepy kitty cats. Typical lions. The belly don't look very bad. They don't look full. And I'm imagining with the possibility or with an availability of a meal, they will definitely go for a hunt. The bellies don't look very swollen. The 11 I saw this morning, their bellies were massive. They looked huge, and they must have had come from a kill. Oh, there we go. Oh, a 4th one has shown up. Oh, they're going for greetings. Where did you come from? Hello. How are you? That's fantastic, Cam says, and that's what you call meet and greet. And the chances are we might have all the 4 girls here of the Ololo Pride. Ooh. Very social lions. I'm sure you know of all the cats we got in the world. Lions are the most social, and having different litters with all the other youngsters that are not here, I'm sure they are making also very important decisions by so doing. I'm sure you can hear them trying to sniff the other one there. They've been known to have synchronized mating, sometimes synchronized allomating, also allonursing. Yeah, these are the 4 girls of the Ololo Pride for anybody who is joining us. So we've got 4 here, we got 12 somewhere. So the 12 could be the 11 I saw. I might have missed 1, but then these are the 4 of the fully grown lionesses of the Ololo Pride. Hello, beautiful girl. You just look amazing. Earlier we were talking about the teeth of the buffaloes, which looks pretty white, and we commented on buffalo, on herbivores' teeth in general looking white because of what they eat. And I said cats and more so lions and leopards, as they age, their teeth get a bit yellowy. As you can see, those canines there, they are quite yellowy, and that's because of age, and also looking on what they feed on. Maybe so much meat, not cleaning their teeth very well, and definitely I said the herbivores, by eating lots of grass or some of the twigs they eat, they may have some small little bristles which could, in default as they eat the green stuff, maybe clean their teeth. But I would imagine also the green matter is not as dangerous in terms of making their teeth not look very clean, unlike the meat these cats will eat. Notice she doesn't have a pink nose. Anything 3, 4, 5 years, these cats will have pink noses. I would guess he is definitely over 5 or 6 years upwards. When they're young, 2, 3, 4 years, the noses look a bit pink in color. And locally here we call lions Simba. And if it's one is Simba, and if there are many, they still remain Simba. And so good just to see lionesses on a Christmas Eve, and I'm sure by Christmas should be able to arrive in style tomorrow. Not sure why that one is hiding behind there, but she's taken a much higher view than the other three, and most likely he might be able to spot something that the others may not see, and of course let them know and maybe make a plan to organize for some dinner. Alrighty, you go back to South Africa to Steve Ovo and see how he is performing.
Thanks, Gigi. Well, we are driving very, very slowly, and we're having a little bit of a look. Oh, there's a track. I wonder who that was. Looking for some tracks on the ground. And this is a very nice looking track, Darby. I'm just going to reposition for you slightly here. I'm sorry I'm not showing you all of these tracks in my book, because my book has gone missing. I'm going to jump out and show it to you. I think you got it. Okay, here we go. Let me not get in the light. It's all about light. Jocelyn and everyone else who's new to tracking. Here we've got, you can see there's a big pad over here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and the pad, and this is not that big. Always good to put some form of measurement. That's 10 centimeters in size, and this is the front foot of a female leopard. Here is the back foot. You can see it's much more delicate. There's the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is the back pad there. Now the animal is coming in this direction, heading that way back towards the drainage line. So this is a leopard, and we spoke earlier about if a lion or leopard is walking slowly, they'll step on top of each other like that. This one is the front foot and the back foot. So just like with the elephant, you can draw a line here and a line there, and you can see this animal is walking just a little bit faster than a walk. So I said a walk twice, and that doesn't make sense. It was walking at a fast walk, but not very fast. And the angle, the foot is turned slightly, and that foot is turned slightly means that it was looking in that direction, looking towards the right. So coming down this pathway and looking towards the right. Maybe it could hear something, maybe it was smelling something. So whenever tracking and you find these tracks, you can find tracks going in this direction, and you can see that they're turned, because this should be in a straight line. You see where the front foot is, the back foot should be in a straight line, but it's not, it's off to the side, which means the animal was veering off that way. So interest was on that. If I demonstrate with a little bit of a catwalk of my own, I'm going to be walking down the road, and suddenly something catches my attention to the right. My feet are going to change, and then I'm going to keep walking straight. So by the change in my feet from straight to the side indicates that the animal or the human or whoever it is has got intention to that side. So quite helpful when tracking, that you can then know, okay, well, the animal didn't likely go left off the road, it probably went off to the right if the tracks aren't continuing where you can see. But they're not that fresh, they're probably from yesterday, but we're going to continue on down this way towards Twin Dams, where there is some water, and then from there we'll pick up and come back along the Umawati and see if maybe these tracks have crossed that side over towards Mamba, where we'll be going after this. And if they are female leopard tracks, which they are, it could very likely be the leopardess Thandi, and she loves going up Mamba in that direction, so who knows, we might be lucky. But this time of day, unlike David's lions up in the Mara who are active because it's a little cooler up there, not many cats are active right now because of the temperature. So the chances of them moving right now are unlikely unless something jumps up in front of them causing them to hunt, or maybe they're so thirsty they'll go and drink. But most likely they're going to be lying down somewhere in the shade until it cools down adequately enough for them to get up and get mobile. So if those tracks were from last night or this morning, the animal could still be in that direction. But we'll go and have a look in a moment once we've checked the next watering hole, because when it's warm, watering holes are what you look for, because that is the points of interest. All animals require water for survival, some more so than others. Everybody's thinking of Thandi. Well, you know, what kind of a Christmas would it be without the Thandi, the Queen of Djuma? And well, I haven't seen her. I went out last night with intentions of finding the Duke. We put it out into the universe, the Twitterverse, and well, the Duke of Djuma materialized on screen just when we wanted him to. So I'm hoping to find Thandi this afternoon. with Columba would be magnificent. Who knows, it's nice just to be out and about. It is definitely cooled down a little bit from before, but it is still sweltering from the perspective of a leopard. So David was showing you the meet and greets of lions. It never gets old. It really is always so special when lions are lying flat and suddenly one comes behind them and they all get very excited. I haven't seen you, I haven't seen you. There's all that rubbing and licking and tail moving and body posturing. It's always very special. Well, here is Twin Dams, one of our popular washing holes that runs along sort of the length of the Umawati all the way up to Vuyatela washing hole, which is all the way back behind us. It's the lifeblood, this river system of the Djuma Game Reserve, of majority of the northern Sabi Sands, in fact. And well, these watching holes or points are put in along sort of points of interest along the drainage system itself, because they are low-lying and good areas of water catchment. So that is the objective, to catch the water, to provide water for the animals. And often we find animals here, but today it is very quiet. There's not that much water in the dam itself. A lovely area for elephants. Hello Jasmine, you want to know how I tell how old a track is? Well, essentially there are many ways. Good afternoon. There's a family driving past. They all want to be on camera. We can't do that because they haven't signed the forms, but they're waving, very excited. They all want to try and get on board. Jasmine, there are many ways to tell tracks. So if an animal has been moving, first of all, if you identify the species is important. I'm going to talk about this while I drive. Species is very important because certain animals are nocturnal, which means they move around by night, and certain animals are diurnal, which means they move around in the day. So if you find a nocturnal animal's track, for example a leopard, then have a very close look at it, and don't just look at the one track. Walk the trail, see how many of them you can find, and then find if there's any activity on top of that. For example, hippos are nocturnal and they go back to the watching hole sort of in the early morning. There are also a lot of nocturnal birds out here, and if you find a nocturnal bird, there's a lion track there. That's probably the male that had a bit of fun with Sydney this morning. If you find a nocturnal bird, I don't know if you're going to get it, Darby. It's just in the sand here. It's not very clear. There we go. There's a lion track. Nice big male lion track. So when it's in sand like this, Jasmine, let me jump out. When it's in sand like this, it's quite tricky because sand doesn't move too much. This is a big male lion. Look at the size. Look at the size of that. Here's the back pad. Here are the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the back foot. This is the front foot. Look at the size of that. I come around this side. It is almost as big as all of my fingers. That is enormous. There's a giant male lion. Big pads there, toes, front foot. He's also walking. See there and there. He's walking at a nice walk, not very fast. But for example, if I came along and I found a nocturnal bird's track on top of the lion's track, then you know it was late last night, because nocturnal birds are active in the late hours and maybe the early dawn. But if you find hippopotamus tracks on top of this, then it's quite possible that the hippo also was going back to the watching hole in the early morning, so it was quite late. But if you don't find any of those on top, you find them on top of the hippo tracks, on top of the other animals' tracks, then it's probably a lot fresher. So you can kind of at least work within sort of the time frame of 12-hour periods, but then it gets very tricky. If it was very windy last night or today, then the track actually changes shape, because the sand itself will blow in and will change its shape. It won't be very crisp, and it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. It's something that everybody who wants to track should do. Go outside a very sandy area and take your footprint and stand on the ground and then record the time, and then come back every hour for a 24-hour period and see how it changes. But every hour come back and put down a fresh track and see how that track deteriorates or changes according to what you originally put down. So it takes a bit of practice, and well, if you know you've been somewhere before, so for example, if I know I drove this road last night and those lion tracks are on top of my vehicle tracks, and I know for a fact that lion came through after my time, so after 7:30 last night. But if they're on top of the vehicle tracks from this morning, then you know that it happened at some stage this morning after whoever traveled along that road. So it takes a lot of practice, a lot of getting used to what movements are going around, listening to the radio, who's about, who went where, and obviously with the insight of other animals moving around as well. It takes a little bit of getting used to. But we will spend some time in the coming weeks trying to really delve into the idiosyncrasies of aging tracks. We do bushwalks quite regularly with Herbie, who's an expert tracker, and while he just sees these things, he just, oh, there they are, and we have to look quite close. Okay, so those tracks head straight up on towards Drakensberg, Amamba, where Sydney had a male lion materialize on his very awesome honey badger sighting this morning. But lions are with David Gitu, and we will see what we can find. We'll see in a short bit.
Well done, good luck. I'm sure in general tracks will always lead to something, so your lion tracks might lead you to lions like this one's here. And these are 4 lionesses, 3 of them flat asleep, 1 of them enjoying the views from on top of the Olololo escarpment. And for those of you who could be joining us now, this particular pride of lionesses is called the Olololo. Sleepy, snoozy. I cannot blame you, because this is very typical of most cats, and more so the lions. And if they're very well fed and they have enough to drink, they have no reason not to have a nap. We have always thought and said it's only the males that sleep a lot, the lions, but also the lionesses also, with the same conditions the males have would have, that also we go through the same. Look on the left here, it looks a little bit tattered or torn here, showing she's fully grown female. I would guess maybe 7-8 in age. Snoozy. You better put your head down, you'll sleep better. Not like that. And you can see the breathing is quite slow, because temperatures have gone massively down. We might have started high temperatures, but I think maybe now we could be having highs of mid of 60s and maybe lows of 20s now. Hello. She's quite struggling to keep her head high. And I would say with a choice, oops, yes, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. You don't have to punish your neck muscles by trying to keep your head high. You see the other 3 have just landed the thing, or the other 2 there lay flat. You're more comfortable that way. Do you think lionesses? Well, very typical of them to be laying down like that. So you said they got such fluffy ears, and it's true, and that fluffy ears sometimes I would guess would help them to keep the cold away, and that reminds me of the bat-eared foxes, which have very fluffy ears too, and lots of fur that you see there. Looking at that fur reminds me of the males, which would have maybe similar fur, and also are more on the neck and the head in terms of their mane. Look at that paw there. And I'm sure those are the kind of tracks that Steve Ovo is following, which might maybe pay if they would lead him to some lions. Well, flat lions in general will be flat lions. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes for them to do some action. They might remain like that for a long time. There's some little bush behind them I want to show you, and of course that one broken in front of that particular lioness. And the bushes there, we call those bushes camphor bush. Thank you, Archie. Camphor bush. And a long time ago in my village, and I still think maybe occasionally even today, if ladies would walk for long distances, and even men, and you're walking in the sun, in the African sun sometimes it's too hot and you start sweating, what people do, they would pick those small leaves there, the very top ones, which are rather very soft and a little bit fluffy, just like the lion, the fur on the ears of the lionesses, and they would put them in their armpits, and apparently they worked as wonderful deodorants. So should you walk even for like 10-15 kilometers, which for us is nothing to do, and you get those leaves and you just hold them on Yeah, that's very interesting. You hold them, under your armpit. You'd walk and, however much you'd sweat, you'd still come out smelling wonderfully good. And they would act as some beautiful deodorants. Well, I want to believe this thing being used. Sorry, and they would smell something. Let me see what they would smell like. For those of you who have used Nivea, they would be smelling like a Nivea product. I'm sure most of you know Nivea is something like Nivea, but not as strong as Nivea. And just some very nice aroma, smell that you'd get, especially after you'd remove those leaves, from the armpits. Time to say hello again. Not sure whether they're all sisters or first cousins, but you can tell they're all fully grown girls. And that's very typical when they say hello. Whenever you give handshakes, they might give headshakes. That's very social grooming, and like, yes, we are one, and nice, good yawn there. Sometimes when one yawns, the other one will yawn, or when one yawns, she might yawn again before long. And they definitely are looking at something under there. These two and this particular one is like, what? It's time to enjoy my nap. Let me know what you guys plan. Once you know what you want, I'll definitely be a team player. But in the meantime, I want to enjoy my nap. Are you going to wake her up? I don't think that's right. You should let her enjoy her nap. And you can also enjoy yours too. Boom, and there she goes. So the four of them, this particular one is still looking and enjoying the views. She struggled earlier trying to keep her head high, and she did very well, but at one point she could not. She had to put her head down. Well, I'm just hoping that the tracking of Steve is going to lead him to some cut like this one at one point. Look at those hind legs of that lioness. And very good luck, Steve Ovo.
Thanks, Gigi. Well, your lions are probably going to get up soon when they start yawning like that. I was going to follow on from the last little segment that I had. I was asked the question about how can you tell age of tracks. And to make it a bit clearer for you, we've got a few over here. We'll be able to age and maybe identify as well. So let me pop off quickly. And very easy to actually see a couple of the tracks that are here. I'm going to first of all go and take a little seat right over here, so I'm out of the way. And here we've got, just like before, here you can see the round one. There's the toes over there going this way, and here is the back foot going that way. Now the reason they're so far apart is because it came down this little hill, so you can't really judge speed of a track when an elephant's going down a hill. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to show you how old this elephant track might be. Now first of all, here we've got this railway line running through the middle. Can you see that? That is a millipede, and millipedes are normally active either at night or in the early morning when it's cool and there's a bit of dew around. So that is on top of the elephant tracks. Can you see that? So we can pretty much be almost certain that the millipede came after the elephant, and it was probably, the elephants were probably yesterday, because last night what also happened, can you see this track over here, Davy? There. That is the track of a scrub hare. Let me just move this little seed out of the way. And scrub hares run around like they've got little socks on their feet, and they always leave a track behind that is an L or a 7. 1, 2, and 3. They seemingly don't have a fourth foot, but there's the fourth foot, because as they run, they put 1 foot down, jump, and then land. 1 foot down, jump, and then land. So you always get this little 7 or upside down L. Scrub hares are nocturnal, active at night or early in the morning. So the scrub hare is on top. Now we can go and have a look. See, so we've got the elephant, which came first, the millipede, which came second, and then the scrub hare was actually before the millipede, because it just cuts off the side of the scrub hare track there. So by looking at that, we can easily see age. And when I'm talking about edges and cleanness of the track, you can look inside the elephant track here. All these little ridges here are very well blown down. They've lost their sharpness. So a very fresh elephant track will be shiny from the weight, and will also have very sharp edges, but it is at least since yesterday that these elephants came through. So I can't tell you the exact time, but some very, very professional trackers out there will be able to give you within hours, and not really easy to say within minutes. Herbie likes to talk about something when it's steaming hot, and that's when you're hot on the trails of a leopard, and that's generally because you can probably smell it. Anyway, I hope that sheds some light a little bit. So bearing in mind, we get nocturnal birds that walk around as well. We also get diurnal birds, meaning birds that walk around during the daytime. So doves, starlings, those are kind of tracks that you might find on top of tracks as well, and can indicate the time as well to when something was there. Always try and have a look around. Don't just find one track and go, this is how it is. Always have a little look along the line, almost like reading a paragraph to understand what's going on the page. You can't read a word and know what's going on. You read the whole paragraph to understand exactly what's going on and piece together the investigation, the CSI of who moved here, when did they move here. And the marvelous thing about tracking is that the art of tracking enables you to observe animals that you don't see. So you know that there was an elephant here, a whole herd of them in fact. See all the tracks in the road on top of the pathway, and now I know I drove this drainage line yesterday. So all these elephants are in the road on top of our vehicle tracks, and from the actual angle they're all going that way. So, well, thanks, Joe. Tracking is a marvelous, actually, development in the human consciousness, or in the human brain development. They reckon that the art of tracking is what developed the scientific mind. It enabled us to step out of a box and to start thinking like another animal, which is how you put together hypotheses. You have a sort of a null hypothesis to prove something and to disprove something. You follow a trail and you either find the animal or you lose it. And if you find the animal, well, you get better and better and better. So we're thinking out of the box. How did the animal move? The direction? Where was it going? Why was it going there? For water? For food? Was it hunting? I spoke about the movement of the leopard sort of turning sideways. That will also give you an indication of what the animal was probably doing. So through tracking, you can interpret so many things. The San Khoi Bushmen, they are able to tell you exactly what's going on. They could come to a scene here and tell you how many elephants there were. One had a gammy leg, how often they fed. One lay down over here. There was one that was jumping and playing with a stick. And this one, this is for Pat because he had a really funny one last night. This one was mounting that one, and the kids were knocking around over there. Sorry, Pat, if you're watching. That was a dig at you last night. But anyway, through the art of tracking, we're able to hypothesize and figure out all sorts of things. And from a scientific point of view, sometimes you find tracks of animals that are never seen. So either you can use a camera trap as a passive means of identification or species counts, or you can use tracking to know there's definitely a leopard in this area. You might not see it, but through the tracks, you're 100% certain. Animals don't know how to cover their tracks. They don't have the capacity to do so. Very good. We're going to continue up this road, see if we can find any tracks of that leopard that we saw earlier. As the wind is slowly picking up, the light is slowly fading here, but in the Masai Mara, David is hoping to show you a marvelous sunset.
Easy havings for those lionesses. So if you get a leopard for us, it would be wonderful. I've always compared Juma or South Africa, or rather Kruger National Park and Mara in terms of leopards. And it's a lot easier to do leopards in Juma than it is in the Mara Triangle. And every time and my apologies at one point, my voice was gone, but I am back. You try to imagine what we go through from here in the wilderness to get you to living rooms. There are a lot of stages, lots of links here and there, but at one point one may not work sometimes because of the weather. Sometimes get a bit grey like this. So my apologies when you did not hear from me and maybe you still saw me going like that. I can tell you I was still busy saying something, and what I was saying, maybe what you missed me, was comparing the Juma and the Mara Triangle in terms of leopard sightings. It's a lot easier to spot leopards in Juma or in Kruger National Park than it is in the Mara. And every time I think, is it the vegetation? You know, do they have more leopards than us? You know, and I think there are all possible reasons why that is the case. There's one truck there of the game rangers which you're gonna see passing, and they're always going very fast, zooming. But of course, they are on duty. You've seen the speed they've passed. Safari Mother, I'm sure you're asking of any news on the pregnant lioness of the Sausage Tree Pride. I guess no news. Oops, sorry. No news as yet. Go, Paka, go. No news as yet. No news as yet because I've not been able to access that area, Safari Mother. It has been raining, not cats and dogs, but buffaloes and elephants the last, I would say, 2 weeks. And I was doing an estimate this morning, and with my operations manager by the name of Steph, we thought in the last 96 hours we have had about 300 millimeters of rainfall in only 4 days. 300, that's a lot of rain by any standard, and we thought that could be a lot more rain that maybe Juma would have in a year. I don't know what Steve thinks about that. In the Mara in general, we got about 1,000 millimeters of rainfall per year. So that particular area where that pregnant female is, that they call the Sausage Republic, I have not been for the last, I would say, 4 days. And every one time I go there, because I've been going there in the morning, I'll tell you, I have suffered, well, not suffering, I've struggled just to keep the car, on the road, and a few times I almost got stuck, but have survived. Well, I want to show you some buffaloes here, but as soon as, Safari Mother, we get any news of that lioness, we'll let you know what has happened. But as it is now, we have no idea. Of course, we are hoping the best and things will be good. And most likely, if not now, we might get good news. And James, yeah, good question there. And you're asking if lions, do you ever, sleep curled up like house cat? Yes, they do. They do. And when it gets very cold, you'll see them like almost making a little circle, or how you see house cats at home. That's exactly what they will do because it gets cold for them. And like maybe the house cats that will get the warmth of our couches, of being inside our rooms, the lions are out here in the cold or in the wilderness. You'll always see themselves curling up themselves just like a pangolin. Buffaloes, how are you doing? I want to give you the bad news of buffaloes, that the older females are about half a kilometer from here, and they're watching you because these buffaloes are much lower than where we were with the older females. So I'm just giving you a clear warning, heads up, that if you're not careful, maybe one of you might become dinner tonight or very early breakfast for those lionesses. Because where they are, they're like on a straight line. And Patricia, you'd like to know where the lions will source the water on that hill, and there's no water there. That area is too high to hold any water. But just on the side of that hill, Patricia, if you're watching, there's one area that had some very green, thick trees, and there's streams and wells there, and that's where they would go to drink. And I'll tell you, Patricia, it's the very first time I've seen those lionesses there. They are always, much lower here, but they are only there out guess for on one reason. They need to spot. They need to see what's happening down here, and I'm sure they have spotted these buffaloes. Well, the migration is gone, and I'm sure Patricia and all the other nice viewers know about the migration of the wildebeest and the zebras. And the migration having gone, oh, the prides of lions. in the Mara, be it the Mara Triangle or the other side of the Mara, will now be dealing with this big prey, which is equally very dangerous. I mean, buffaloes, I would say, they do not migrate, but they have what you call mini migration, just moving a few miles here and there, of course, for pasture and for drinking. But now we have lots of water, and have lots of water that have collected everywhere, and I don't think these buffaloes will be going too far. Just look at that cloud there, and this is how our afternoons and evenings have been. But I can smell no rain today. There are a few times I have had or have done some very wrong predictions in terms of weather, but today I would say 9 out of 10, and Archie's just laughing. Will not get any rains today. Those clouds could be for tonight. That's when we hope to get any rains, but not this afternoon. Beautiful Mara, and those trees you see there, we call them the torchwood trees, and they're very iconic of the Mara, and it looks very clear. Well, it's still a bit grey if you look on the horizon there, but I would say so far so good. It has only gotten a bit chilly, and talking of getting a bit chilly, I may have to get my famous Maasai green shuka, just to make sure I do not get any cold or any flu that happens a lot when it gets very cold. I should be fine with this particular shuka. That's another truck there of the game rangers. You can hear them zooming, and they're always moving very fast. Not sure for what reason. I think the driving school they're told once you're out in the bush, always drive fast. The main job, basically, they take care of us. They take care, of the animals, also making sure there are no poachers around. If they pick any trucks like what Steve is looking, and I'm talking about human trucks, they are able to follow them and find out where they came from. But I would say the Mara Triangle has been pretty safe. I don't remember the last time we got an incident of poaching. Well, we're going to give you that one more view, because I'm sure by the time you come back to me, you'll be infrared. But as we do that, we'll take you back to Steve in South Africa.
Welcome back. Well, we might have found some lions as well. There's a report of a male and female lion just here on Gowrie Main, just south of Torchwood. So we weren't going to go because they've been on Torchwood. Yes, there's a male and a female lion. We've been hoping to find some. Okay, a big male lion. Look at him. Very exciting. It's going to get very busy because we're on the main road. This is Chitwa, this side. How's that, Darby? Oh yeah. Look at that. Beautiful big male lion. He's got a female on the other side of him, just hiding just off the side of the road. I'm wondering if this is one of the Evoker boys. I haven't seen them in quite a few months. Darby, you've seen the Evoker boys recently, hey? Not? Maybe I should move up a bit to the right there, sir. Just going to reposition. There we go. He's got a beautiful, easily identifiable scar on his lip. The thing is with male lions is that they're constantly changing their facial appearance because of the competition between them, the fighting that goes on, not just for the ladies but at mealtime. They are very battle scarred, and generally the scratches on the face are constantly changing their appearance. And a female is looking at something. Who is she? She's interested in something in the thickets there. Giraffe girl, you probably are 100% correct. It almost looks like amber eyes to me, with that sort of scruffy neck that she's got. So Giraffe girl saying it is one of the Evoker boys and one of the Unkuhumas I haven't... What's she doing? That looks like Amber Eyes with that neck. I think she spotted something just up in the thickets here. Can't quite see what it is, but look at the intention. He's not too bothered by it. He's more interested in staying close to his girlfriend. What have you seen? Now he's spotted it as well. Sorry about the pole behind there. Sorry about the pole, but that is the communications that runs along the center of the northern Sabi Sands. See how she moved to stand up, and while he thinks she wants to mate, she doesn't. Well, she might. Very, very cool. They're moving back north again into Torchwood, and just on the side of the boundary here with Chitwa. She moved into the sunshine there and realized that is not ideal. See how well he stays with her. He stays very, very close. He doesn't leave her side. He feels that if he loses her for a meter, that he might lose her to another male lion. Very protective once they find a female. And by this behavior, you're going to assume this is a mating pair. Safari lover, lions do often hunt by themselves. They will hunt often by themselves, safari lover. The pride will assist, obviously. I've seen lionesses hunt very successfully on their own. Often when they're away from the pride, they have to hunt on their own because, well, they've got cubs, so they've probably secreted them away, hidden somewhere, and they are very, very adept at hunting on their own. Obviously, inner pride makes it a little bit more easy, bit more cohesion. But male lions go through many years, sometimes on their own, without anyone to help, and they are efficient hunters in their own right. Obviously, leopards are the specialist on their own, but lions, a single lioness, has the potential to take down a zebra and wildebeest on their own. Obviously, it is quite difficult to do so, but they do have the power and strength required. So, if I'm not mistaken, that is Amber Eyes. You can all correct me if I'm wrong. Darby, what do you think? It looks like her. I remember her always having a little bit of a sort of scruffy sort of neck, and her eyes are very, very golden in color. And she is an enormous lioness. Definitely the biggest in the Nkuhuma pride. Her tracks resemble that of a male lion and sometimes are mistaken for one. But now that she's lain down and is not moving, he is, well, just going to sit there and wait in anticipation for her to move and maybe lay down in front of him. Lion mating can be quite short-lived, but if you spend hours with them, you can get them mating many, many times. I must be honest though, earlier this year, when the Evoker males first came onto Djuma, no, it wasn't the Evokers, it was the Birminghams. We were up by Buffelshoek Dam, and Amber Eyes was in Estrus, and we stayed with her for an hour and a half, and they mated, I think it was twice. So that was a very poor show from a lion point of view. And as all of you know, if you're not aware, she had cubs, but unfortunately they were somehow lost to possibly some marauding hyenas. Where I was earlier this drive, when we had those wild dog tracks, we were checking the western boundary. That was the area sort of to the right hand side of where we were driving, that she had sort of spent a lot of time with her cubs, and she'd often come back and find the rest of the pride, and they'd go off on a hunt. I haven't seen the Nkuhumas since September, so this is a very nice to be back in touch with the lions, not just on the TV screens, and you're all enjoying the lion-filled day. It has indeed been a cat-filled day from Sydney this morning, and lions this afternoon, David in the Masai Mara, and us with these two lions that are, well, quite happy, I suppose, that it has cooled down a little bit. Still not cool enough for them to get up and go doing too much. I think she maybe spotted something of interest and then thought better of it. The energy required to go hunting now is quite a lot, but there is a small breeze blowing. You can see by the plant just off to the left here, there's a very nice wind that has picked up, and it often actually heralds the movement or the beginning of a hunt for lions, and the wind is coming from the direction that they are looking in. Every now and again you see her turn her head, thinking, what can I smell? And time for a bit of a pedicure. Time to clean those protractile nails so that you can efficiently grab and claw an animal. But anyway, it is still a light down here in South Africa. It is cooling down, but David in the Mara no doubt has got his shuka on. We know for a fact he's got IR on.
In different colors, and we are in what we call infrared. That's why I look a bit different. And above all, I've also put not infrared on myself, but a different coat on, or another layer on top of myself, because the temperatures have gone shoop like that all of a sudden, which is better than just having, you know, the rains. And nothing against the rain. I love rain myself, but yeah, we are able to do a bit of drive and in more better atmosphere. The last few days we have struggled even to point out the big game like elephants because the rains were just too heavy. Kita, what does she ask whether we get? She must ask whether we get something here. Oh, Kita, you asking whether we got mistletoe in Africa? Not really. I do not think we get them in Africa. Sorry, not that I know of. We do not get them here. You see another car coming on the other side. Lights on because of the darkness. So guys now have to see better where they're coming from and where they're going. One big advantage of infrared, we'll always be able to see game or animals without shining any artificial light. Artificial light I'm talking about, like the spotlights you see in front of the car there, and this is also what we use. So what I do, or what you do, we'll always use this to keep looking on the left, the side, right to the side, or the left. And the moment we spot something, we'll always switch everything off. And once we switch everything off, we then just punch in there with the camera with the infrared. But the only big difference or the downside of that, or the animals or everything appears in black and white. I'm sure shortly before you came to me from Steve in South Africa, you noticed most likely he was still in daylight, and you'd wonder, what are we talking about? You're both in the same continent. Why is one of you in daylight and the other one in infrared? Simply because South Africa is, on the Central Africa time zone, and Kenya is on the East Africa time zone. So we are on two different time zones. And in Kenya, we are 1 hour ahead of South Africa. So it's about, 7 o'clock here, or 7:50, something like that. Not sure exactly what time it is. And things about here, 11 minutes past 7 is 6:11 back in South Africa. So chances are he'll still be in color, or what you call natural light. So now we'll tend to hear lots of crickets, lots of frogs calling, and oops, I don't know if you heard that call there. That was a spawing, a water spawing. So some of these birds will come, on the road because it's much drier. But the most common ones are like water thickness and some nightjars. Nightjars will come, and of course they'll be trying to catch some insects for themselves. So we'll have lots of birds coming out, and we'll also get lots of insects coming out. Now we've got some earlies here that we're going pretty close to them. So what we'll do, I'm going to switch off my light and then slowly approach them. And I'm going to switch off the car and try to get as close as we can, because at night you'll approach them very quietly. How is that, Archie? See the best we can. And I was talking about seeing now these animals in black and white, and we were watching elephants before. I'm sure you remember they did not look like this. They looked a bit different. Also, Steve Ovo had elephants, and now because being in infrared, they all look black. we see the tusks might look a little bit white, and the glare, you can see the glare on the eyes. That's the glare I'm talking about. That sometimes open their ears, basically not to cool off, it's just a little reflex, I would say, because it's not hot enough. On hot days they keep flapping their ears to cool off. Elephants have been known to eat like 15, 16, 17 hours in a day, non-stop. And I would say elephants spend 3/4 of their life eating. To support that big body, they need to eat lots and tons of food. This big mama there with a small little calf behind her. And in general in the Mara, elephants are very lucky. They have a wide choice of food. I'm talking of elephants eating grass. Like now, I would say most of them are eating grass. Should they get any shrubs, you'll see them also eating shrubs. They have been known to bring down big trees and getting the branches down, or fruits. And they also been known to eat twigs. At the moment, they're just uprooting the grass there, because with the rains that have come, the grass is very lush, it's very green, and we have seen sometimes as elephants try to uproot the grass, if it doesn't come out, they use their little foot to knock the grass to uproot it. But as it is now, they just bring it up. Lisa, how are you? And you're saying that elephants are your favorite animals. Apparently then we have a commonality there, Lisa, because elephants are my favorite animals too. And like the lions we were watching a few minutes ago, you saw them just doing a little bit of motion up and down, then looking up, then they all went flat. These guys, Lisa, I'm sure you'll agree with me, they will always be doing something. Eating, moving. That one seems to be having half a tail or kind of a stump. Turn the other way around. We want to see your bottoms because you don't have a full tail. Very difficult to know what could have happened. And they're very close to us. And these animals, what you need to do, don't surprise them when you see them. So long as they know you're here and you don't get them a surprise, all looks good. And I think things are getting brighter and better, first of all, because he got some sort of cuts.
Yes, thanks, David. We're in that golden hour now when the light is just fantastic. The male hasn't moved an inch since you were last with us. You can see his belly is very empty. His mind is all set on the lady at the moment. And I don't know how long this pair has been together. And they don't generally move too far when they are a mating couple. But by her interest, by looking around, it very likely seems that she's getting towards the end of it. And, well, is getting quite hungry after the love affair. Okay, see how she moved slightly, and he's like, what's going on? He's photobombing the shot now, David. So we go prod him to move slightly so we can get a better shot. I wouldn't do that. Big male lion. See his front feet there compared to her back feet. You'll see the size difference. They are enormous. That's why that track we saw earlier of the feet of a male lion are incredible, as he now shows us the Sphinx. The size of those feet. Hello, Kaz. Well, the nails are constantly sort of shedding while they're growing all the time. And the nails are inside. They're actually what we call protractile nails. So in the relaxed position, they're inside the feet. And when they are extended through muscular contraction, they come out. And that's when they use it for obviously grabbing things. But for keeping them sharp, and they'll often scratch against trees, very similar to what a domestic cat does to your lounge furniture. scratches it to sharpen and clean the claws at the same time to get any dirt and grime out of them. And every now and again you'll actually find them using their teeth as they bite at the claws and maybe pull them a little bit. They're constantly shedding bits of skin, and like we have to trim our nails by lions sort of scratching in the tree, the nails actually come off. The sort of outside sort of shell of the nail comes off. If you've ever seen domestic cat nails lying around your house after they've been scratching, that's what happens. They're constantly sort of regenerating themselves underneath and growing constantly. Beautiful gaze of the lioness. She's very pretty. And I'm interested to know if this is the male lion that actually was seen this morning with Sydney, because I don't know if it was. I don't know if this is a mating pair. It's not far away. This male's not far away from where Sydney was interrupted with his honey badger by a lion. I didn't see. I don't know if this pair has been mating for some time. We've been with them for a good 20 minutes already, and there's been no action in that regard. He might be smelling something and might be interested. And if it is indeed Amber Eyes, she's never been the most sort of forthright female. She does eventually allow herself to let go, but she's always been a little bit grumpy about it, and in my experience. It's definitely grown, this Avoca male. That mane has definitely thickened up. They were still relatively young boys when they arrived on the scene earlier this year. And now to see him in a full mane, it's possible he is the bigger of the three, because there was only one male that looked almost in full mane. The other two were still a little bit scraggly, a little bit younger, still trying to develop a bit, and one was much bigger than the other two. Well, you can see the size difference of the two. There is a good 100, sometimes 150 kilograms in the weight. But for now, David is with an animal that is in a completely different weight class.
That's very true, Steve. So just hang on there and let us know what happens after maybe a few minutes. We have seen now 2 more calves. Initially we had 1 calf, but now we got 2 more. And this is the one big advantage I was talking about of having infrared. And if you listen carefully, you can hear them uprooting the grass. You can see how that youngster, that calf, see how she's turning the grass and just culling it. Very good. I was saying earlier, when it's dry and it's very difficult to bring the grass out of the ground, they'll always give it a small little kick, and maybe more so for the youngsters. But the big ones like this, they just pick it up, simply because the ground is pretty wet and soft, so the rooting of the grass is not tough. You just curl, pick it up, and just lift it up, and just in the mouth straight. And I can hear them just uplift or lifting, cutting the grass and getting it out of the ground. We're very close to them, barely 10 meters, 10 yards away from them. And as I was saying earlier, so long as most animals in Africa, you do not surprise them, let them know you're there, that's fine. But if you sneak on them, like this ones, or even the buffaloes that we were watching before, that is when things go wrong, because many animals don't like to be surprised. Let them see you approach, and then of course you keep looking at their body language, and that helps you to know what exactly to do. Actually, you want me back up a little bit? Okay, gonna back up a little bit. You can have a better view. It's beautiful Ellis, which are looking very good in infrared. I like the natural light. Gonna keep going. Let me know when to stop, aren't you? Keep coming. All right, then I'm gonna give a little angle to the left a little bit. But that's a very interesting question. What elephants will do, they're very bright animals, and they'll always know where to get food and when. So very unlikely you'll see them like stashing food to eat much later. So their tasks basically, or mainly, they'll use them to break trees or to bring, branches down if they're just too high. But very unlikely to see them stashing food so that they can eat it later. Anytime they're hungry, they'll know where to go and what time. And I haven't seen them exactly stashing food. What I've seen some of the animals doing that are like cats, some lions, leopards the same. If they eat enough, for example, if a leopard is eating on the ground, you'll see it like stashing its gill up on a tree. If they're lions, they have eaten and they are full enough, you'll see them like, of course they don't climb trees like leopards, you see them trying to dig the ground and scrape the ground and covering the kill with a bit of with a bit of soil, just to make sure that it doesn't go bad and they're going to eat it later. Well, it's time for me now to move. Very good for the elephants. I hope my light's gonna work and see what could be ahead of the world. Alrighty, I would be happy to see a scrub here today on the road. It's always a nice moment. Cristiano, you're asking if Alice would feed all night. I'll not be surprised. It's very cool at the moment, and they would take that advantage to keep feeding and feeding and feeding. Because during the day, when it gets pretty warm, they'll break and stop from eating because of the heat of the day, and you'll find them, like say, going under shades of trees just to cool off. So to say, at night, those elephants you've seen there, I'll not be surprised if they'll keep eating until tomorrow morning. Everything feels so cool, and of course, I would guess the grass they're eating is pretty soft. They'll maybe pause once in a while to have a little drink, but it's not surprising to see them eating. And any one time I've seen elephants at night, whether I'm doing a drive or not, driving in the game reserve from one point to the other, when I see elephants at night, I don't remember seeing elephants just standing there doing nothing. At night, in general, I would say 9 out of 10 times they are always feeding. Other animals may pause, like antelopes, talking of impalas. You see them going to the edge, of forest, resting. Child of the universe, very good question. But I'll tell you what, in East Africa, not in East Africa, let me say Kenya, because East Africa covers Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, and sometimes Rwanda and Burundi. In Tanzania, you get the marula trees there. So in Kenya, we do not have marula trees, so we do not have elephants getting the marula trees here. It's ideally from Tanzania going Mozambique, Botswana, all the way down to South Africa. Those are the areas, child of the universe, you'll get the Ellies getting the marula trees. Not anywhere in Kenya. But we have the equivalent of that. We have so many other trees where we have seen them trying to get fruits. Like we have the wild mango. We have seen elephants trying to bring down wild mango. We have seen them sometimes bringing down fig trees. So they still have lots of options in terms of getting fruits in the Mara. Just cold, so far so good. No sign of rain. Clouds building, I'm sure Em in the final control is happy to hear that, right Em? And should we get rain, some feeling, I'm thinking it could be tomorrow morning, not this early evening. Anything early, like the earliest I would guess rains would come would be about maybe 2 o'clock. The times we have been getting rains like maybe the whole night and sometimes up to the morning. When you're waking up in the morning and prepping to go to the game drive, we start with our covers and the windshield all the way up, waiting for about 1 hour, sometimes an hour and a half for the rain to subside for us to start a proper game drive. And I'm not sure why Steve left his lions driving around. He would be able to tell us where he is going.
No, David, they were not boring. And the problem is, unfortunately, when you are right on Gowrie main junction with a lot of the other reserves here, well, it gets very busy from a traffic point of view. When we're in Djuma, we've got over the sightings there. We've got Torchwood on the right, Djuma on the right and the left. Well, so the north, Torchwood on the north, Djuma on the north, Chitwa, and all the other lodges on the south. It's a thoroughfare, unfortunately, and there's no real control with the radio. There's two different radios, one for that side, one for this side. Everybody wants to get in there, and it's almost like David would know what's it like being at a crossing in the Mara. It can be a little bit chaotic, and so better we'll just leave them there and go see if we can find that leopard that we were trying to follow up on earlier. It is the time of day for the leopards to start getting up and active. Alex, that is a great question. Animals in the wild, all depends on which animal. You want to know if they can survive extensive injuries. Well, hyena can, unbelievable what they can go through. There was a report of a hyena that was hit by a car in the Mara. I was chatting with the researchers up there. It was hit by a car, it was badly mangled, and the animal just came right. It just sort of fixed itself. Don't know how, but it just did. A lot of the other animals out here, unfortunately, if they do get injured and they do lead, there is a lot of blood loss or bleeding. Invariably they get picked off because, well, injury out here leads to weakness and also leads to the predators trying to find you. So it really all depends on the type of injury. A lot of the animals, for example, lion, leopard, have sort of got their own sort of sterilizing agent in their saliva. So certain injuries are certainly most healable. On their face, for example, certain wounds are able to sort of lick them and sort them out. But a leopard that gets a hyena biting it on the leg, breaking of the leg or something like that, or tendon, which makes it unable to climb a tree, well, that animal's not going to do very well. Lions, if they get injured, quite often can do quite well because of the support of the pride. But genuine injured leopard, if it's badly injured, it's not going to do very well. Hyenas somehow just manage to drag themselves through it all. And then all the other animals, broken legs, not very well. Not very well indeed. So extensive injuries, it really depends on the degree and the species. It really does. But it is incredible how hardy these animals are and how able they are to heal from certain wounds, and also how able they are to not get injured by doing certain things. I promise you, if you went at a flat sprint through the bushes there, just go flat sprint. If you didn't injure yourself, I'd be very, very surprised. These animals, they just bolt in every direction. They seem, oh, Hornbill was busy feeding in some elephant scat there. So even walking through the bushes here has the potential to cause injury, and these animals run through here. There are holes in the ground, there are divots, there are logs, there are thorns, there are drainage lines, there are predators. You know, there's many things out there that can injure you, and well, I guarantee you, most of us will bleed or get injured through a little sprint through the bush. Brent obviously not. He'll glide straight through wherever he goes, and the trees and thorns will move out of the way. he's missed old Brent. Sorry, Emma. Okay, so we're back into Djuma now, slowly moving along. As I said, it's cooled down quite a lot. There's the coolness of the afternoon with a nice breeze is often what encourages a predator to move. Well, I enjoy making you all laugh. You want to have a little look at why it's cooling down, Darby. You can see the sun has just gone behind a weather system in the distance. And while with these very warm days, due to the fact that the earth is aligned differently and our summer means that the sun is beating directly down on the earth, and that leads to a lot of evaporation. It also leads to a lot of friction, and it's what causes huge amounts of thunderstorms and rainfall in the summer months here. Excuse me, I just had a... Sorry, I mean, I even get injured sitting in the car, it seems. But let's carry on. I think choked on a piece of macadamia nut that I ate about an hour ago. It's all right, Emma, I will survive. First, Emma says it's a first world problem. That's not very nice, Emma. Let's see what we can bumble along. I remember once finding Tingana sitting just here on the termite mound. We'd been looking for him and he was just sitting there back when he was injured. Sitting there, he gave us a bit of a call. It was a really, really nice sighting right next to the road. There's so many places now. I followed Hosanna hunting through here. I've had wild dogs come charging through this road. You start to get to a point, like, that's why whenever Tristan talks to you all, he's been around in the area, not just Djuma, but in the Sabi Sands for so long. Every tree he looks at has got a memory, supposedly, of some sighting that he had. So it gets to that point where you start referring to, remember that tree where Tingana had the Nyala, you know, along this road, and people who've been around for a while will know those. Your landmarks like that start standing out. Remember where the buffalo was with the three Evoca males up on Hyena Road? Those are sort of things that start sticking out in the mind. And when you hear people like Taxon and Aubrey and Rexon on the radio, you know, that's how the communication goes. And when you're in an area for long enough, you remember that one pathway. You once had an animal that was deep in the bush, but you remember it. And that is how we navigate out here. Bearing in mind, folks, there's no road signs. No one telling you to go left and right. And it's the first thing you have to learn in a new property. And on a new property, there's nothing quite like your first leopard sighting in a tree, on a kill, with a cub perhaps. Anyway, as we watch these impala rams run across the road in front of us, let me send you back up to the darkness of the Masai Mara.
Well, at night so many things would happen, and also what I'm trying to do is to put my spotlight on top of trees, because once in a while we have spotted owls on top of these huge trees here, which will be something very interesting to see at night. Most of them coming out during the night and having some wonderful visuals and their big eyes to spot prey. We have seen most of the owls, you know, hunting even small mammals, as not only do they're kind of raptors, I would say, night raptors. Sometimes the enthusiast or the bird, I would say specialists, will not want to group owls as raptors as much as, to me, they are raptors. Just maybe the difference of having night raptors and raptors. So it could be a possibility of seeing some at night on top of the trees, but also they could come down like the marshal owl, just trying to look for some rodents, and they could be mice or rats. But the most exciting thing I'd want to see today would be a scrub hare. I've not seen scrub hares for the last couple of nights out on the drive. If I don't see a scrub hare, a nightjar would be very ideal, which will be very good. And what an amazing night. Not sure, well, we've got some few stars here, and I'm sure. And Em is trying to tell me to get a chameleon, but I tell you what, all my days in the Mara, I have never seen a chameleon during the night. We'll see them during the day, like the Jackson's chameleon, but unlike Djuma, where I think it was flap-eared, which was green color, yes, that we almost saw every night. And apparently either it's one species in that particular area of Djuma. Once you could see a chameleon, you do not have to scratch your head or trying to think what species or type of chameleon it was. It was only one type. There's one time, yes, I remember I gave Sydney a lot of pressure either to get a chameleon because I had gotten myself a scrub hair. Yeah, M in final control, thank you, got very good memory. It is true. And I'm not sure Sydney liked me that night because he ended up not supporting a chameleon. But chameleons blend in very well. It's very possible, like you shine your light on a chameleon and don't see it, you know. Once they have the right camouflage in terms of color, you'll keep looking and you'll definitely see nothing. And yet it's right there. Unless maybe if you're lucky, it makes that slight, you know, movement of either the limb or maybe when you see the tail trying to move on. Well, scrub hairs, where are you? I just see some lights or some eyes glaring on the road. I'm not sure it's a scrub hair or it's a nightjar or it's a bird. I want to get a little close and find out who that is. So what you normally do, you'll always switch off for our lights, not to blind whatever it was. Did you leave? It was right here. And I think it's a nightjar. What do you think of that actually right there where the lights are? Going to switch off, and I hope you get the spot there. Let me first switch off, and that's there. I'm going to switch off the engine, and my guess, you see that eyes glaring there? It's the bird I was talking about. I could be wrong, but my initial guess is a nightjar. Not very true, but I want to believe it's a nightjar there. They always have very large eyes. There are only one downside with an infrared. You can't get very close to an animal, and you don't get the profile as good as the natural light. And the disadvantage here would be if you try to get a little closer to the bird, she is going to fly away. That's not what we want. Again, as I said, my guess, it looks like a nightjar to me. I could be wrong, but you can see the huge glare on the eye. Chitty, half and half, I agree with you. What will happen is, if she comes much closer to the road, we might see it much better. So let me try and switch off these lights and see whether we have any difference. And nightjars are very special birds. On one of their toes, they have something like a comb, you know, and they use that comb to align their feathers, or just comb their feathers, would you imagine? So it's something like a little brush, and you just see them, stretching one of their toes out and aligning their body feathers. My guess is it still remains a nightjar. Not sure which one it could be. We've got so many species of nightjars, and the common one from where we are is what we call the mountain nightjar. I'll be trying to see whether they have my bird book, and maybe see whether I can play the sound of a nightjar, and more so the mountain nightjar that I'm thinking this is. I could be wrong on that, but let's hold it nightjar for now. Pretty good question. You're saying you're not sure what nightjar it is. Neither am I sure what each one it is, but we got quite a number of nightjars. I just want to read you some of the nightjars we got here in Africa. We got one that we call the Betts nightjar. We got the black-shouldered nightjar. We got the Donaldson Smith nightjar. We got the dusky nightjar, Eurasian nightjar, which will always come here once in a while and go, and they come here around the month of October. We got the fiery-necked nightjar, freckled nightjar, long-tailed nightjar, mountain nightjar, which I'm thinking this could be. We have the Nubian nightjar, pennant-winged nightjar, plain, I don't know. Ooh, all those are nightjars around here. Maybe about 10 different species. Let me now have one quick count of how many. I just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's put about 12 plain nightjar, because we've got one that we call the Luenzori nightjar that is not found in this particular area. You'll get it in a country called Uganda, to the west of Kenya. Linda, good question. The night, just because ideally it's very difficult to see this bat during the day. I'm trying to imagine that's what maybe I learned in college quite some long time ago. And during the day, you'll see them perched on branches of trees, and they blend in very well. It's only about 4 months ago when I saw a nightjar. They're always almost impossible to see. I'm trying to see whether I can get any sound on this one, and see whether I can play it, Linda, and see whether I can hear any call on this particular nightjar. That particular call is very characteristic. that one bit. It's very unique from all the other nightjars. One more time. That one, and you will never mistake it with any other nightjar or any other bird. Very unique. Excellent. It reminds me of a black-bellied bustard that makes a particular pop sound like when you open a bottle of champagne. So for all the bustards, the black-bellied bustard is very unique. Even if you don't see it and you hear that, you'll always be able to know what what bustard that is. All right. Okay, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna put my lights back, but in the meantime, we'll take you back to Steve Ovo, and he's gonna tell us the latest in Juma.
Sounds like such a wonderful nightjar sighting. Really is very, very cool animals, those. I didn't get the identification, Emma, that he passed through. Was it a swamp nightjar, perhaps? Very common up there. You see, we get the fiery necked as well. Thank you. They are very tricky to identify, nightjars. You've got to look at the wing feathers. And my honest opinion is the call is the easiest way to go. Because you've got to really look closely to identify them. There's just very subtle differences between the males and of different sexes. And well, the females are generally easy to identify it as a female, but what species is quite tricky. But I've actually got a foot in my room of a nightjar that I found that got killed by something, and I took the foot, and I will bring it on drive some stage to show you that the pectinate claw that the nightjars have got. They got this beautiful long extended toe on one of their feet with a comb in it, and that is designed for sorting out what we call their rectal bristles. And the nightjar has got this really big mouth. They fly around at night, and that's why they call it a nightjar, to open the mouth. So they fly around at night with a wide mouth like a jar and take in all the insects like a whale would plankton. They have these big sort of whiskers on the face. A mountain nightjar. I've never ever seen one of them. Very nice, David. Very, very nice. And they use that pectinate claw for straightening the whiskers, which are obviously ideal for helping them to navigate while feeding. Very, very cool birds. Specialists in the nighttime. And their flying is almost soundless, which is almost like that of an owl. Well, we got some reports that there were some angry elephants. There were some angry elephants around Vuyatela. Sorry, Monique. What did Monique say, Emma? She had a comment there. I didn't get all of that. Yes, Monique, I've got a bit of a... I like to research things, and if you find birds that are dead, you might as well educate ourselves with it. So I've got a courser's foot, a bronze-winged courser, that potentially got hit by a car. I'm not sure. A nightjar as well that I found dead. They often do get hit by cars. And then, well, we found a hornbill that lost a battle against my vehicle window back at Juma. Often hornbills they like to fight their reflection. They see obviously their reflection and they think it's another hornbill, and this one seemingly broke its neck in trying to fight its reflection. And I found it next to my car, and well, I took one of the feet to get the feet to show the difference in their toes, because they got two fused toes on the inside, one on the outside, and then one back, and that's called the syndactyle foot structure. And you can't go out there and just catch hornbills and have a look at their feet. And also, we were talking about tracking earlier. I can take those feet and I can put them on the ground in the sand and actually show you the track that it makes. So without having to go and catch animals. And also from a learning point of view, we can learn by doing that what that animal will look like when it puts its foot on the ground. So I must try and remember where I put all of these feet, because well, when I packed up to go up to the Mara, I packed everything away into some boxes. Well, Emma thinks I've got a bit of a foot fetish. Well, when it comes to tracks, I most certainly do. Well, there are no elephants at Vuyatela, They're definitely probably part of the family that we saw earlier in the drive. It was all the way on this side, but they don't seem to be there. If they have drunk, they probably would have gone back down this way. Darby, left or right? Darby thinks left. Sometimes your gut just tells you immediately take a left or take a right, and well, you go with it, and then suddenly there's wild dogs in the road. There is a lot of skill to doing what we're doing, but there's also a lot of luck, a lot of blind luck. Like Sydney this morning was just bumping into things. That happens, and then you can just miss everything. I mean, because we don't find a lot of animals this time of year because of the greenery and the moisture, doesn't mean they're not around. I mean, that's why tracking is so important, because you know that animals are here. But you could drive here and the honey badger could run behind the car. You could drive here and the leopard could run behind the car. It's just all about timing. Having a bit of a gut feeling, having an understanding of the landscape and where the water is, where the animals might be moving. And here is the very sloppy dung of the elephants that were here not so long ago. Bright night, gut feeling, sixth sense is everything, I'm afraid. I have a sixth sense that I think has saved my life many a time, and it's important to try and, you know, we all got our five senses. Most people I know that live in cities try and block out sounds and smells because it's really overwhelming. But living out in the African wilds, living out in the bush, you want to smell fresh elephant poo. Oh, fantastic. Oh, do you smell that? Yes, that was leopard scat or leopard scent marking. And also your sound. You want to hear everything. Oh, you hear that? Magical arches, music to our ears. And obviously our sense of sight improves as well, because, well, we're trying to find the most camouflaged of the camouflaged. And in doing so, by sort of highlighting or increasing your senses, your sixth sense comes with it. And the more you trust it, the more you go with it, the more it speaks to you, I believe. The more it speaks to you, you know, you get that gut feeling about doing something, you must just go for it. We get so confused in our mind with thoughts, and thoughts overwhelm us, but gut says, let's do it. Anyway, well, we showed you some tracks earlier. They followed the millipede, or they were before the millipede. They were on top of the elephant. I wonder if you can remember what animal that was.
Well, my search continues. I was looking earlier for this crab here, and I never saw this crab here, but instead I saw a nightjar, which is pretty cool. Now, talking of the sixth sense, there are times when we are out here in the bush and you see, you know, some animals, be they zebras or wildebeest, walking in a particular direction, and all of a sudden they stop and they make a U-turn, you know, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and you wonder what is it they have seen or what has happened. And when you look, and you look very clearly, you do not see anything. Found out, you know, much later on, they might have sensed something, and not once we have seen lions, but in a position where we have always believed or thought they definitely would not have seen them. So sixth sense, I think, works out not only for human beings and also for animals. There's that point. So you're walking in a particular way, are you going to graze, you're going to look for water, and all of a sudden you're like, we don't want to keep going this way. And you don't turn to take a different path, you just take a turn to go right back where you came from, because chances are, if you take a turn and take a different route, then you're still going to a blind area. But if you walk towards where you came from, you're granted, unless something was following you, you are very safe. So it makes a lot of sense to talk of the sixth sense even with animals. Not sure about the predators, you know. I mean, they'll always be looking for something to feed on. So when they change the course direction, they must have seen we can't reach that prey, or that prey is just too dangerous for us. Let us not even bother going for it. Well, a scrub here would be something nice for me. A hyena would be something even better. But it would be best to see lions walking on this road, which I saw in the morning. I saw 11 lions walking right at this particular spot that we call the Olololos. but lions move a lot, and especially during the night. They'll be known to cover long distances. Remember, should you have any comments or questions in our darkness drive, please don't be shy to send them through. Hashtag SafariLive. I've always liked what my friend Sydney says, that the wilderness is always unpredictable. You can't predict what's going to be around the corner. The thing is, keep driving, keep looking, keep hoping, keep anticipating. It could be anything. You know, you could see something you didn't expect. My friend the other day, Tristan, saw a pangolin playing with lions, which is pretty special. I'm not sure whether we got another nightjar here or what we got here. I just see the eyes. Actually, you see those eyes there, or am I having my own imagination? It's just something like eyes there. I'm going to shine the light there. I'm not sure that's another nightjar. Maybe yes, maybe no. What is that? Oh, that's someone's cup. Yeah. Well, Kimberly, last minute we could see a backyard fox. Who knows? But what I've seen here, it looks like a cup to me, and it's definitely not a nightjar. And let me see if we can pick it up. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna step out and see if I can pick it. Maybe it could be belonging to one of the guests. So there's a car coming in front of me from the other side. So just let it pass, and then I have to just make sure it is very safe. But just to be sure that all goes well, I'll send you back to Steve, because I want to step out and pick that cup and find out if it belongs to a guest near the camp we stay in called Angama Lodge.
Thanks, Gigi. Have you found a cap with a reflection on it? Very interesting. You got a new hat now for your SafariLive. Happy Christmas, Gigi. I left that for you a few weeks ago, hoping you were going to find it. Oh, only joking. Only joking. Okay, well, the light is slowly fading. It's still bright enough to see, but just driving a little bit slower so that we can hear if there's any alarm calls. Mrs. Lapwing, indeed, the lesser spotted cap, or in this case, the spotted cap, because, well, David spotted it. Really, really interesting. Found all sorts of things on safari. I found many hats, water bottles, blankets. Once upon a time, one of the trackers that worked with us at Singita dropped his jacket off the front. They sit on the front of the vehicle and they often tuck their jackets in underneath the seat once they get a bit warm. And there's a beautiful photograph of a leopard, beautiful male leopard up a dead leadwood tree, pretty much like that one there, right up in the top of a dead leadwood tree like that, lying on the jacket. So a beautiful, nice jacket, and the leopard lying on it like, this is mine. And well, I don't ever know what happened to that jacket, but I don't think it was ever the same. That jacket would seriously tell some stories. Seriously tell some stories. What else have I found? We found head torches, cameras. So many people lose cameras out on safari. Cell phones is a big one. Cell phones is a really big one, because people sitting on the back of these game viewers put their cell phone in the pocket, and the seats are flat. They're not these bucket seats that your bum goes in nicely and the pants stay up. You sit flat and everything falls out. Cell phones are amazing. And the reality is, and I had a guest once who lost 2 iPhones in the same trip. How someone owns 2 iPhones in the first place? But anyway, so that all of you iPhone users out there know, you cannot find your iPhone or find my iPhone without some service. So it is not the best app in the world if there's no service, and out in these wilderness areas there's not really. Even up in the Mara with David, we've got Wi-Fi on the vehicle so we can keep in touch with you.
Well, I just picked what was on the ground, what initially I thought it was a nightjar, but it was not a nightjar. It was actually a hat. And I just want to show you how that hat looks like. I think it's a pretty good one. And it is brand new. I'm not sure that I actually need my light on it. I think that gives us a bit of a glare. Maybe these lights might help. Look at that. It's all brand new. And what I'm thinking, I'm going to put it on tomorrow for Christmas. And hopefully the owner will go in to see me with it and wonder, well, that's my hat. Can I have it? And I'll say, you need to tell me where you lost it and at what point. I'm just going to stop here and just listen if I can see anything from the bush, because you never know. The idea is always to switch off and listen very carefully if you could hear anything or any sound. Not anything I can hear at the moment, but I can hear lots of crickets, lots of frogs, a lot of spiders, just rubbing their feet and making a lot of noise at night. And what a peaceful night it is, eh? That's the usual beautiful torchwood tree, which are very iconic of the Mara. And I think it could be time to thank all of you for having tuned in on this Christmas Eve. And I'm sure there's so many of you who are still waking up, being Christmas Eve and being on different time zones. To all of you, on behalf of all my friends, I'm telling you happy Christmas Eve. And remember, also tomorrow we shall be out here bringing you the best wilderness. Thank you for joining us, and on behalf of everybody else, thank you very much. Goodbye, and see you tomorrow morning for another wonderful drive.